All right, so we're live here, and making sure it's actually going before I start chatting away and rambling on.
Good idea.
I think it's like quite a big delay. All right, looks like it's up now. Great. All right, welcome back to another week of live stream, and this time I'm not alone. And I'm happy to be starting a live stream with someone else. It's nice to have someone to, we can bounce ideas off each other right from the start. So welcome, Vegan Gaze. Actually, I'm going to be honest with you. I can't remember your real name. I don't know if I even know your real name. But do you want to be Vegan Gaze, or do you want to be known by your actual name?
You can call me that, or my name is Ellie, if that helps.
Ellie. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Whichever one you'd rather go with. But welcome. Thanks for coming on. And yeah, we're going to get through some good topics today. And if you're wondering where I am and why I'm here, let's just deal with this, because last time I did a live stream, it was like I was live streaming from a potato. The audio and the video was so bad, so I thought, all right, let's go to the roof. And I'm currently in Athens. That behind me is the Acropolis. If any of you know Athens, you'll know what that is. And so it's a pretty beautiful place to do a live stream, but it's outside, so I'm wearing 2 hoodies. But I've got the 4G, so that's the most important thing, right? If you're joining the live stream and you've come late, like let's say you're just starting it and it's not live anymore, then that's totally fine. You're going to have some timestamps, so go in the description now. You can find the timestamps to each topic. I've got my wonderful partner Annie, who's monitoring the whole thing, and she's going to take down every topic we do and put a timestamp on it, so that we can so it's easier for you to follow if you come later on. But aside from that, oh yeah, before we jump in, a few little points I want to mention. 2 important things. One, there is a video coming out on Wednesday that I think you're going to love. It's a really super sarcastic parody video about an alpha male on a date with a vegan, and that's me and my partner Annie. But even bigger than that, even more of a big deal than that, a week today, Sunday the 15th, at the same time, I'm going live with Paul and DeSalle, the co-founders of Anonymous for the Voiceless, and we're going to go through every single rumor, every single accusation that they have ever had made against them. We're going to go through every single one. That's a week today. So, with all of that out of the way, let's jump in. Let's talk about World Vegan Day. I want to know what you think before I jump in with my rant. What do you think about World Vegan Day?
Yeah, I understand it's kind of like a veganuary-esque thing to kind of draw attention to veganism, because the argument might be whatever attention you can draw to a subject is good, but it doesn't sit very well, like as you did say in your video, to celebrate being something when the victims involved are still being victimized, and more so than ever. So it's like,
yeah,
I don't really, it's not something that like I made a tweet about it, but it's not something I genuinely celebrate or feel any attachment to, because there's nothing to really celebrate except maybe a new kind of food that's come out. Like, that's great.
This is it, right? I don't get it. I mean, okay, wait, I do get it, obviously. I understand why people celebrate it, but at the same time, it feels like it's just extremely human-centric. It's all about us, isn't it? It's like, oh, well, we're happy that we're vegan. And as I used the example in my video of slavery, and I know this is a touchy topic, and I knew that when I made the video. At the end of the day, it is like celebrating the fact that you don't purchase products that come from slavery, while slavery is the norm. It's like, why are you celebrating it? Like, if anything, and I was telling Annie this, actually, my partner, World Vegan Day should be a day where we have like remembrance. It should be like Remembrance Day, for the fallen victims of like war and stuff, where we have like, we go on to memorials and we give roses and we do a minute of silence and we raise money. And this is what, if there was going to be a World Vegan Day, I think that's what it should be, not a celebration where like, these articles that come out, like celebrate World Vegan Day by going vegan for a day and shit like that. Like, what the fuck is going on,
Yeah, as well as that, I don't think it helps because, people, I know they're just trying to find excuses to not like us so they can somehow then justify abusing animals. But, they have this idea, non-vegans, that we are we see ourselves as so much better, so much superior. Like, so the whole kind of stance of being like, I'm so glad I'm vegan is maybe, that's maybe shouldn't be the focus. The focus should literally just be the animals. So a remembrance thing would be really good, I think. Definitely.
I think so too. A remembrance day. I remember for the animals, like, you know, raise some money for the animals, and we do a minute silence. Imagine if we could get a minute silence passed so that, like, you know, the companies that you work for, businesses that you work for, imagine if they had to, by law, allow you to have a minute silence for the animals. How powerful would that be? You know, because in the UK, veganism is held as like it's almost held at the same level as a religious belief, right? So I don't think it would take that much for someone to be like, look, I want the business to respect this and have a minute silence, or allow me to have my minute silence for the animals. And I think that would be far more powerful than going and fucking celebrating vegan hot dogs, you know?
I think it would. That would be cool. And I think you could, definitely. Like, I think in the UK, veganism is now like a protected belief. So you probably could get it legally so that you were allowed a minute silence. That could probably be something that we could do, given enough demand. Yeah. Absolutely.
And, you know, I showed this on Friday, but when you've got bullshit like this going on, I mean, we've got to do something about it. Like, it's loading up now. I'm not sure if it's up on the screen yet. Like, you know, Live Kindly giving us it's World Vegan Month, and it's okay if you're not a perfect vegan. Like, you know, this is the kind of shit that's going around on World Vegan Day or World Vegan Month or whatever the fuck that means. Like, I'm swearing a lot, but this pisses me off, you know? I don't want to pretend it annoys me. Look at this shit. And to be fair, like, I was harsh on this article, but it does have a lot of information about what veganism is and stuff like that. But it doesn't matter when the stuff they post, like, look, they're advocating this. They tear down the perfectionist stigma associated with veganism. We don't need a few perfect vegans. We need millions of people actively reducing their consumption of products. What the fuck are you talking about? Imagine if BLM came out and said that. We don't need a perfect police system. We just need lots of police actively reducing their abuse of black people. Like, no, they would never say that. What the fuck? You know,
it's just the dichotomy that's being presented. We don't need a few perfect vegans. Well, one, how do you even be a perfect vegan in the first place? You're either vegan or you're not. But we're not advocating for a few vegans. We're advocating for everybody to be vegan. Like, it's not like everyone to reduce. Like, of course, like having every single person reduce would be better than a few vegans. Like, obviously, nobody's like disputing that. Suppose it like that's just so weirdly worded. Not a fan. No,
I mean, I understand what you said there, and that, like, logically that would make sense if it were impossible for people to go vegan. But it's not impossible.
Yeah.
So you know, the argument falls to pieces. It's you know, the vast majority of people that we come into contact with. In fact, you know, I'd go as far as saying maybe like 95% of people that you come in contact with online can go vegan. There's like a tiny fraction of minorities in the world. I don't mean like ethnic minorities. I mean minority communities, minority demographics, you know, living in places where it's impossible. And they're a minority, and they prove the rule. Like, you know, they're the exceptions that prove the rule that the vast majority can. So articles like this are just enabling people to continue abusing animals. And it's just extremely disappointing. And Live Kindly's disappointing me before, but this one was especially, you know, on a day where, like, you know, World Vegan Day and this, it's like just double whammy. I'm just like, I'm in shock, and it just pisses me off. Yeah, frankly, it pisses me off.
I'm pretty sure they've hurt my feelings before, but I can't remember what they've done. But I'm pretty sure they have hurt my feelings before as well.
Yeah, they've hurt my feelings. Yeah, no, they disappoint me massively. They do this kind of shit a lot, but then they also have amazing posts where they get through to like a lot of people. Clearly, it's just this. I don't want to use the word apologetic because it's I feel like that word gets overused, but it is kind of apologizing. It's kind of making excuses for people is what I'm trying to say. They're making excuses for people. People don't need excuses. They need guidance. They need support, and they need a firm message to say, hey, you know, you can do it, and I'm here for you. Let's do it together. Not, it's okay if you don't do it. That's bullshit. You know, it's absolute bullshit.
Yeah, one of my friends put it well once, that actually someone will respect a message more if you set a high standard, like a bare minimum high standard for people to go with, and you don't like what's the word, you don't waver on that, you don't change your stance, you keep it at that standard and you live that and you preach that, people will respect you far more, and you'll probably get much more of an effect out of them, because even if they're not going to come to that bare minimum high standard that you have, at the very least they're gonna try and match it. So like just so, but if you are like, oh, this thing's really important, but don't worry if not, though, you're taking away any respect they could have really had for your message. Like if you were at least have some conviction in what you're saying, someone can respect it. But if you can't even respect yourself enough to be like, no, this is wrong, I still think this is wrong, like, then I think people can respect that. But otherwise, no, I can't respect that. It looks weak.
I think this also comes down to we're getting on to another topic here, but the Liberation Pledge. A lot of people argue against the Liberation Pledge. They say that it's we should sit with meat eaters, we should sit there and for some reason, like, oh, it's more beneficial to be there and stuff like that. And it's like, well, how seriously do you think that they're taking? You're telling them you believe that this is murder, this is a Holocaust, an animal Holocaust. You believe the dairy industry is raping cows. You believe all of these things, but you're happy to sit there whilst I consume it all in front of you, and you're not going to say a thing. Like you're not going to stand up and walk away and protest. I wonder how seriously people take you when you sit there. You tell them all the shit, show them the documentaries, and you show them how much it bothers you, and then you sit there and smile and have your meal right next to them when they have. And I know the Liberation Pledge is a debatable topic, but I feel like you lose a lot of respect if you sit there and go through it. And I don't want this to be harsh for anybody who doesn't have the guts right now to stand up and speak up. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not coming at you. I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I'm just saying those people who choose not to stand up because they say the Liberation Pledge is not good or whatever, I think you're full of shit. I think you're full of shit. I think if you've got the confidence and you've built up and you can walk away when someone does that, or you can at least pre-warn them that you're not going to sit there and put up with this, that's far more powerful than sitting there and smiling and making jokes over dead bodies that you apparently are so against,
Like I haven't taken like an official, I haven't like said I've officially pledged or anything like that, but I haven't sat at a dinner table for a long time with anyone because I just can't. Yeah. I'm not trying to enjoy my food, so I just eat it by myself typically. I sit in my room, I'm like, but yeah, I know what you mean. It's just like it's not nice to see, and yeah, obviously we don't know people's scenarios, like if it would cause them not even inconvenience, sometimes it could be quite detrimental to maybe like do that. But at the same time, I get what you mean. Like if you want to be taken seriously, you see it as offensive as someone chowing down on a dog, you wouldn't sit while someone does that, would you? So
fuck no, that's something I said this to a few people and they've said no, it's better for me to sit there, and talk. And then I've said, all right, then what about if they were eating dog, would still sit there? And they're like, no, of course not. And it's like, well, then you're a hypocrite. I'm sorry, you're inconsistent. And as much as like, I don't like, telling other vegans that you're inconsistent or you're being hypocritical, but sometimes I think it's, it needs to be said, right? It is hypocritical, isn't it? For, in many ways. And it's okay. I mean, if you can live with that, I think it's all right. If someone's like, look, I can live with the hypocrisy, I believe I'm doing what is right, and good for you, right? I don't think, hypocrisy is not always the be all end all, the absolute worst. It's like you can admit that you're a hypocrite in some ways and you can still believe that what you're doing is somehow right, but I think people need to be honest with themselves on this topic and have a serious conversation with themselves as to why they would sit with dead cow on the table but not sit with their dog on the table and not say anything. And then
the only real difference I could see, like, I mean, so the only difference really between those like analogies would be like the cultural expectation. Like if someone genuinely was sat down with a dog, say you were in the same society you were in, so the same culture, then I guess it would add something to it. But then again, say you went over to a different country where they were eating that, I don't think many people would who like don't eat animals and think that it's disgusting. I don't think they'd sit and watch their dog being eaten, even if you did take into account the cultural difference. So yeah, that's about it.
Cool. I've got Vasilios is here, by the way. Someone else joining the live stream. I didn't mention it. He's here now. What's up, man?
Hello, guys. Hello.
Welcome. So this is everybody. This is Vasilios, and am I saying it right? By the way, you say yourself. Introduce yourself.
Yep. Yeah, it's Vasilios or Bill for the ones that it's more common. I think Bill. Maybe you've heard in Russian. It's Vasily. They have many movies with it. So it's pretty much the same thing. So, can you hear me well? Is everything okay?
Yeah, everything's cool, man. Everything's cool. So I don't know if Vasilios, you'll be able to tell where I am, but check this out, man. Look at that for a view for the live stream.
I know.
Cool, right?
I know. It's a really nice view.
Yeah, we were just talking about World Vegan Day. What do you think about World Vegan Day, man? We were basically, I'll clue you in, so in case you missed it, but we were saying that we find it to be kind of strange that vegans around the world are celebrating veganism when actually the opposite of veganism is still the norm. Like, animals are being exploited, tortured, killed, and most people think it's normal still. Most people are happily engaged in it, and it seems a bit not just strange, but just way off, like really inappropriate to be celebrating veganism when it's like in this state of affairs. What do you say to that, man? Are you pro or anti or indifferent, or what do you think about World Vegan Day?
So well, I think there are many ways to see that. I'm about 6 minutes in the backstage and about 10 minutes in the stream. So I get that. I saw your video as well on that matter, and I understand. Like I can think of the pros. All right, the pros is that is a day that's about veganism. So like we have a day for AIDS, we have a day for special celebrations. But I mean, this is a pro. This is something that it's a good thing. But everything has to be in perspective. So if you if you just take a minute back and think of that, you can also say that what's to be celebrated. Like, to me, it's just it's the very most basic thing someone can do to be vegan. Like, it's as basic as, I don't know, like, how easy is that nowadays, especially in the Western societies? Just too easy, I would say. So so I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but if you just see what's happening, by the second, it's just not enough. It's just not enough just to have one day to celebrate what's normal. Like, I mean, where's the logic in that? So I understand why it's important maybe to have this as a day, but it's a lot more important to just really go deep and see what's veganism about, and see why do we do this, and why should we consider this. So I would say, like, it's not a bad thing, but it is a bad thing if we just say it's one day in a year. Like, it's just this day, and this day, let's have a meat-free Monday. Like, what? Do you let's say like, I always put things in perspective. Let's say, let's not steal on Saturdays. What? I mean, what about the rest of the days? Like, it doesn't make sense with the logic behind that.
Yeah, I just seen a comment just popped up from Henchavovo, actually, who's saying that it's about we have to be. He feels that we should be looking to have a fun time, sometimes time from others who are looking in, and I totally get that. I think we can show that vegans have fun. I think where I'm drawn, like, for example, we have the vegan camp out, we have vegan festivals where clearly we all get together and we have a fucking awesome time. Like, that happens, right? We do that, and that's huge. It's you got all the videos coming out of that, and of course we have fun. It's just, I think this, like, World Vegan Day, I don't know, it feels like I said earlier, it feels like what we should be doing, rather than a World Vegan Day of celebration. We should have a World Vegan Day of remembrance for what has happened and what is continuing to happen. Earlier, we should be, in my opinion, having a minute silence. We should be raising money. We should be doing things that are actually really meaningful and powerful, not celebrating vegan hot dogs and vegan burgers. That's kind of what I'm getting at here. I think if we want to have days where we, I don't know, celebrate plant-based food, that's something that should be plant-based food day. I'd be in for that. I'd celebrate plant-based food day. But veganism is not food. Veganism is about an ethical stance. So to have World Vegan Day just doesn't make sense for me to celebrate World Vegan Day in the way we do. It doesn't match up with me. Maybe it should be renamed to like World Plant-Based Food Day, World Plant-Based Diet Day. I think that would make some sense, right? Then I'll be in for it. I'd be celebrating with my pizza, my hot dog. I'd be doing selfies and shit. I'd be up for that. I'd be World Vegan Junk Food Day or something, just like specifically food in the title. It would make more sense for me, but I don't know. I feel like we're confusing people when we have World Vegan Day and we're just celebrating food and there's also, I want to show you guys, we're going to get into something a bit controversial. Sorry to do this to you, but I have to talk about it. It's on my mind. It's annoying me a little bit. I want to share it with you, so let me just pull it up. So this was something else that was posted on World Vegan Day, right? So, I don't want to do that. Unlike, all right, look. So this is from an account called Queer Brown Vegan. All right, I don't know if you know this account, but basically they posted the issues with the vegan lifestyle movement, and they posted it on World Vegan Day and kind of linked it in World Vegan Day, and this is kind of linked with World Vegan Day because it was posted on World Vegan Day, but at the same time, something I want to go through and you guys think, because this kind of post seems to be going viral. Like this one has like 12,000 likes and like a shit is obviously been shared all over the internet. There's been similar posts like this, and it seems like it's the in thing these days for vegans to shit post about veganism, and when they shit post, it seems to go like viral, right? So I'm trying to understand what's going on here, and I want to go through this with guys. So the issues with the vegan lifestyle movement. So this person's making a very obvious thing here, saying that being vegan doesn't excuse you from being racist, homophobic, transphobic, fatphobic, and xenophobic, right? Which I'm sure everybody here agrees with, and you know, if you disagree, I'll be surprised. I hope you agree. That seems like common sense. But then this person goes on to say that apparently the vegan lifestyle movement upholds colonialism and erases the work of BIPOC vegans, and basically just like, this is completely baseless. Right? There's no proof, there's no evidence, there's nothing. And this is posted on World Vegan Day with 12,000 likes. Right, this is kind of the beginning of this. So, but just give me your initial reactions to something like this. Have you seen anything like this before? Have you seen people posting this kind of stuff and it going viral before? It's the first time you've seen it. What are your thoughts on these kind of posts and the content? What do you think about what this person is saying? Most importantly, is it true or false?
Yeah, so when I look at this, I've seen it many times before. I think it's probably stemming from the discussion that when you're looking at the main kind of vegans, you're looking at them, and especially for these individuals, they're seeing like white men and that's it. And I mean, you look at them and they are, and sometimes people are saying that people are white when they're not. Like apparently people say Paul's white and he's not, is he?
Paul Bashir?
Yeah, Paul Bashir, sorry.
No, he's not white. No, neither is They're both I don't know where they're from. I know where they're from. They're from Australia, but I don't know their ethnicity.
Yeah, no. I think it's stemming from that, but I don't think that's really. If you were to see that as an issue, because I think obviously loads of people can have different experiences, so it's brilliant if you can get loads of different people from different groups and experiences of waves of life to encourage people within their groups and experiences to do the same thing. So it makes sense in practice, but it's like, well, how has that come to be in the first place if there really is this issue with too many like white men in their view? Like who's responsible for that? I'm thinking what, donors? Like I don't know if it's is it us? Is it our fault?
Can I respond to this? Because like this person's talking about the vegan lifestyle movement, right? In the animal rights activism movements, let's say, there are a lot of the main famous people we've got one in here, Hench Everfor, who's doing activism. We've got Joey Carbstrong, there's Thanged, there's James. These are the main guys who are deemed to be they're the most popular in activism. But we're talking about lifestyle. If you're talking about vegan lifestyle, then you're including plant-based YouTubers, right? This is absolute bullshit. The most famous vegan YouTubers are women, and are women that aren't white. They are Asian and black the two of the biggest accounts that are doing vegan lifestyle posts. One of them is an Asian woman, one of them is a black woman. One's called Potato Soul, and the other one's called something, I can't remember the name of the other one. I did a video about this. So I don't, what are they talking about? The majority of people posting about vegan lifestyle are definitely not white men. Like, it's the complete opposite. If you go on YouTube and type in vegan food, vegan diet, vegan lifestyle, it is not white men that appear. It is mainly women, and even women, of course. So I have to say I disagree with this post, but you're saying about the activism side of things too.
Yeah, it's good though. It's because what when you look at the origin of like vegetarian or vegan, you know, plant-based diets, a lot of them are in like non-Western areas anyway. So I would assume that you're going to have groups who aren't white who are talking about it more. But I think it is. I think it, because I can't think of what else it'd be. It's literally within the activism sphere, people are looking at the main people and assuming that they're the people. But when you look in, like, when you actually go to an activist event, you can guarantee a lot of the time it's mainly women, and it's usually a woman who's like organized it anyway. So there are movement. I don't know. Like, yeah, it would be good to see more, but like I'm not seeing. I don't look at plant-based like I don't know who Potato Soul is or anyone, because I'm not interested in food recipes or plant-based stuff. I don't know. I feel like this is an issue where if it changed, it wouldn't be enough, because I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I haven't seen a clear indication of the numbers of groups and how many there are. It'd be interesting to see, but I don't know when would be enough.
I think also, like, we've mentioned, sorry to keep talking here, dude. I know you probably want to say something, but I'll just finish this this little point. But you're talking about, like, I did mention like Ed and Joey and James and the big social media guys, but they're big social media guys. They're not leading any movements. They're not leading any groups. They're not leading teams, right? They're social media guys. The leaders on the ground, the teams, and the people who are on the ground in all over the world. You're right. It's majority women. But that doesn't mean that they're being ignored. It just means that they're not doing as much social media work because they're busy on the ground doing the fucking.
A lot of time they're stabs or something. Right? They don't need to. They don't want their face on camera. Like, they don't want to be on camera. Exactly. Like, a lot of
And it also comes down to the fact that, you know, James, Joey, and Ed have spent the majority of their careers practicing, honing social media, right? That's where they decided they were going to go. It's what they've been doing for years. So it's no surprise, they're fucking good at it. They know what to do. They know what to say. They know how to film it. They know what to title it. They know how to do hashtags. So it's no surprise that their shit blows up. And then you know, you'll find some, I don't know, let's say like a girl somewhere that starts an account from brand new, and then they'll start complaining, I'm not saying this happens, but maybe it does happen. So it's because I'm a woman. It's like, no, it's maybe because you've not been doing it for like 5-6 years, you know, what these guys have. And maybe it's just because your content is not new, maybe, or maybe it's because, I don't know. There could be many reasons, but being a woman, you can't just straight away jump to that. And I find a lot of people jump to that conclusion immediately without considering, okay, wait a minute, is the content high quality? Is it good? Have they been in it for a long time? Are they experienced? Have they found, you know, collaborated with other people? Have they, you know, and if all of that has been done and it's still not blowing up, then maybe to decide, okay, wait a minute, there's something fishy going on here. Is this a sexism thing? Maybe after you've been through all of that, maybe then talk about whether or not it's a problem of sexism. But I find that people are not they're really irrational about this stuff, you know.
Yeah, I think that's the annoying thing, because there's a lot of irrationality. So then that means that some of the maybe legitimate problems could get in the way of seeing that there might be an issue. Like, for example, because there's a lot of women who are vegans, maybe they enjoy watching a man speak. Do you know what I mean? Like, that could be the case where you've got like a certain demographic, or, you know, there could be issues where someone may respect a certain person more than another one. But it's difficult to analyze it and really understand what the problem is when, as you say, the conclusions are being jumped to a lot of the time. and you make an assumption about something and someone's down your throat immediately. So you can't really have these discussions without it being this kind of bloodbath a lot of the time. So
you're being too rational, and you must be a bigot. You know, you're too rational right now. You're a right winger, aren't you? You're clearly a Nazi. Clearly a Nazi. Yeah, have to be.
It's this or the other. Like, it's this or the other. There's no something in between.
No.
Absolutely, man. Yeah.
So can I go? Like, I think I've thought of a few points. Like, most of the activism here in Greece, in Athens, and maybe in a few cities outside of Athens, like pretty much the organizers are women, or they're at least there are at least women. I would say that like veganism is just something that has the same principles with with regarding humans and animals. Like, they share the same principles, but it's there are two different things, but they share the same principles. So I would say, like, pretty much it's hypocritical to be a vegan but oppress humans. Like, this, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense to me. So I think this is I don't know, it can be someone's experience, like having someone being vegan and oppressing humans or being mean against humans, even other vegans, but that doesn't mean that it defines the whole vegan movement. And I think that those things, they go viral and they get lots of attention because people are looking for ways, like, to say things about vegans. That's number one. And just to find a reason to cancel veganism, just because they do not really cancel the principles of veganism. They cancel the activist or the human that did that, and he was vegan. So, all vegans are like that. I do not want to be, don't want to be a vegan. And here's the reason why I don't want to. So I think this is, like, I don't know. I don't feel I was a bad person, but I also do not want to be mean, towards anyone by saying this. But I think it's just an excuse not to do what you just deep inside what's right. Like, I don't know.
I mean,
I think pretty much.
So I'd say this person is a vegan, though, man. This person is like a vegan. This is a vegan account that shared that post. So it's
Yes.
But you're saying the reason that it got famous is because people like to.
Yep.
I get you.
Yes.
I follow you. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's like, I mean, why wouldn't go? I don't know. Like, if every single one and of those likes, they were just they were vegans. They could have a bad experience with another vegan person. I mean, it's the I think that's in the context of a human experience. Like, you can say, because you can say pretty much the same thing with someone that eats meat. You can you
Yeah.
can be eating meat and be a homophobic. You can be a racist. You can be that, like, this. It's the same human principles. Like, I think it's, I don't know. I don't think it's a human characteristic. I don't know. It's a characteristic of a person, not something that characterizes veganism. This is what
I get
want
you.
to
And I
say.
think one thing I wanted to pick on, you mentioned in that in your point was about being consistently or being hypocritical when if someone is a vegan but is also being a racist, or being a vegan who's also being a sexist, as it's more often than not that there are vegans that are simply, let's say, they're not racist or sexist, but maybe they're not interested in fighting against racism or sexism, right? So there's two separate things here. I think they're very different. I think you're right in that a sexist can be vegan, but they're inconsistent. Because if you're going around and saying, like, hey, the appearance of an animal, species of an animal doesn't matter, I believe they should be treated equally, but you're drawing a line between, the genders between in humans, then you're inconsistent. You're a hypocrite. You're still vegan because your values towards the animal are they are, but you're a hypocrite and you're inconsistent, and you should be that should be called out, right? That should be something that people talk to you about and say, hey, look, you're full of shit. Like, you care about animals. What about, why are you being a sexist asshole? Why are you being a racist, right? So that's something that I think it's not. I hate it when people say that oh, you're not vegan because you have this view about humans. It's like, well, no, they're still vegan, but they're a piece of shit. There are vegan assholes out there, inconsistent, hypocritical people that are still vegan, and it needs to be dealt with, sure. I guess with the post that we just looked at, the problem I take is that they act like it's some kind of epidemic in veganism. Like, veganism is just full of racists and sexists. And it's like, no, it fucking isn't. There are people, just like in feminist groups, there are racists, and in Black Lives Matter, there are sexists. Of course, it exists. Like, groups have people that have inconsistent values with the core message of the group, but it's not like there's an epidemic in the vegan movement of people that somehow like hate people of color or something. It's what these posts tend to suggest, and it's very in-fitting with the popular narrative, which is why they blow up, right? They get super famous, like you said, and loads of people who are maybe not vegan, or maybe they are vegan, but they are also like into social justice. They latch onto it. It's huge right now, you know, it's a big deal right now, and it's like, it's the in thing to share something like this and virtue signal all of your followers, right? So, yeah, go on, sorry, I saw
That's
you.
what I wanted to ask, actually. So, no, I was going to say, so out of curiosity, on that post, is anybody who fulfills these groups actually linked within the post? Tagged?
Anyone who, how do you mean, sorry?
So they're saying we need to like have this like group or people from this like group who are part of the vegan movement. We need to like elevate their voices. Have they actually done that?
Right at the bottom of the post, he's tagged in a few accounts that he thinks you should go and follow, and that's it.
See,
basically.
that's the thing.
Yeah.
It just shouldn't, instead of it being a kind of like, oh, this is wrong, like it should be a kind of, here's an example of something that's right. I think in too many places, because especially if you're dealing with something that's like veganism, where people want to already like have an excuse to be against it anyway, and that's why it blows up. You should just be like, okay, well, you know, like I'd love to see more lesbian creators, just because that's how I'd love to. So if I were to, the best thing I could do is just share a bunch of lesbians, and then happy days, then more people would see, because a lot of the time you see people like, oh, we need more women activists, you know, who go on the street and film videos and do outreach. But then you do ask that these people, like, okay, so who do you watch? And a lot of the time they don't really have anyone to tell you about. And that might be an issue because, you know, these people aren't as popular, because there are women who do it. I used to do it. But, you know, the best way to do it would just be to share out like a lot of these accounts, because there are so many people who are vegan and who are on the like social media doing these things. So it's like, well, why not just actually use that space to just massive list or feature people? At least they featured a few people, but that was the last kind of point. So
you're a bigot. You're just so bigoted. I'm sorry. I can't believe, like, your words are literal violence right now. How can you say all of these things? It's just, you know, it's too logical. You've got to be more emotional. You gotta really start like screaming at me now. Like, you realize you're letting down all these people. They see a woman in this live stream and they're like, yeah, she's gonna be totally telling him no, like, this is, you're letting on the side here.
I'm being submissive and giving into my female. No, it's just because I think
it's your internalized submissiveness, what you're getting into.
Yeah, no, it's just because, like, so when you look at something like intersectionality, okay, like the political stance of it in itself, right? The term, because everything in a sense is related in some way. Like, if you're abusive towards a person, it is obviously likely you're going to be abusive towards an animal. You know, serial killers, you know, they look for a history of, abuse towards animals at a young age. Like, these things do intersect in some way. So in principle, it like makes sense as a term. But then when you try and put it into practice, it's very much like, okay, well, there's going to be times where things bump into each other, or we have to focus on this thing, you know, single issue campaigns. So it's like, So that's why I can't just go to you and be like, you're completely wrong, or that you're completely right, because I think there are some issues, but I don't think we should be framing it in this manner at all. Like, and if they really even are issues, really, do you know what I mean? So
yeah, if anyone's like, I think we can this is whole live stream on this, so I think maybe we should like look to close this off, because I'd like to get and properly represent myself in this topic, because I've made a whole video on it. So if you're watching this now and you're thinking, well, it sounds like a piece of shit here, that's all right. I have not given my full my full view on this. I'll link a video in the description where I actually talk about intersectionality, what it actually is, and how I believe, like, I am actually supportive of it, absolutely, but there are things that I'm not supportive of, such as this one. And just before we do wrap it up, sorry if you have something to say, but I think maybe we've got into this for a bit too long. I want to show you this real quickly. This is the account of the guy who posted this, or I'm sorry, I said guy. Oh yeah, he's got a he, him. Okay, he's cool. This is the account of the guy who posted this. And look, we've got one post about veganism, and everything else is about other things. So this is kind of like a really common theme. People do this. They post about plant-based food, or they post about other things, and the only post they have about veganism is one where they're shitting on veganism, and it goes insanely viral, right? And this guy's title, his name is Queer Brown Vegan. So I mean, I don't really follow. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, if you're ever going to go onto one of these accounts, like if you ever see one of these posts, all right, as you're watching this right now, people watching this, if you see one of these posts and you're like, shit, is this legit? Like, oh my god, am I part of a movement that is racist and sexist? Am I? Oh my god! Before you freak out, right? Just go and ask some vegans who are actually spending the majority of their lives fighting for animal rights, who go into slaughterhouses, go to exposed farms, who go and do all this shit. Ask them, what do you think about this, before you go flipping the lid and freaking out? Because these people will tell you, like I'm telling you, no, this is obviously somebody who doesn't know what they're fucking talking about, who's trying to stir the pot for likes and shares, right? Ask some people who are actually on the ground fighting for the animals what is really going on, and you'll find a different answer. Or maybe you'll find the same answer, but like I'm going to guess you'll probably find a different answer, and you'll find a different comment than what that post is saying.
Yeah, he's not even involved. Where are the animals? Like, what on earth? I would expect like more posts if you're going to put vegan in your name.
Exactly.
I mean, listen, I would say just this one phrase. I think it's a good way to bring this problems, these issues to the surface, and not be silent about them. But I think it's just going too far to say that the whole vegan movement is that. Like, this is, I mean, it's just too much. It's good to talk about them, to find solutions for them.
Definitely.
But, as defining it's like saying, because it's humans, there are humans that are good humans, and they're vegans, and there are vegans that are not good humans, which is, it is what it is. We should speak about them.
As I put it, they're pieces of shit who happen to be.
Yeah, this is the one.
It's true though. There are many, unfortunately, and a lot of these people would consider me one of those people, unfortunately. Well, I don't really care actually. Fortunately, unfortunately, it is what it is, as you said. There are people like this, yeah. Let's jump on to a new topic then. This topic's going to feel a little bit silly now, actually, after doing such a serious topic, but it's in the description, it's in the title, so we'll talk about it anyway. The whole dating vegans topic, and I don't know if you saw it. I'll pull it up maybe if you actually no, we'll pull it up. We'll just leave it there. But basically, there was like a relationship coach that did in a relationship group that they were in. They put out the question saying, "Would you date a vegan or a non-drinker?" And all the answers were really funny. They were saying shit like that no, and like they had these horrible situations with vegans like that, and it was all really like cringy. In fact, maybe we'll bring it up and post it up for you. I kind of want to get your, like, have you experienced this before, either of you? Like, where someone like found out you were vegan and has been like, oh no, fuck that, I don't want anything to do with you, I don't date vegans. Have you ever had that before? Oh, I can't hear you, man.
Would you like to go? I can go.
Go ahead. Sure. I think one of you is muted just now. I couldn't hear anything. But go ahead.
No. I was just waiting for the vegan guys to take this on first, but it's all good. So So listen, usually what I think about humans, what I hear about vegans is that it's not usually about dating. It's like maybe when outreaching to someone, they usually say, "Oh, so if a vegan, no, let me phrase this differently. Every vegan that I had so far, or every vegan that I saw so far, if only he would speak like you did, like as a human, yes, as a conversation that you have, with anyone, a normal conversation. So as in dating, like I think that, it's maybe they do the same thing again. They're stereotyping vegans. Like, dude, come on, man. Like, what's that? I also heard the sorry, I also read the comments about the ones that you had in the video. I'm like, I
Yeah,
mean, I understand joking around that, but I think
yeah,
that this is just finding ways to just cancel that. Which is, I understand some, there are vegans that they're more aggressive. They're in terms of how they speak or how they phrase themselves, or they're calling other people's names and stuff like that, which is then you don't really have a conversation. But I think it just this is going a little too far, if I may say so. I did not have that experience, but sorry.
No, you carry on. I thought you carry on.
So I don't know, as in, like, I usually, I don't start with, "Hey, I'm vegan." Well, when I used to date back in the maybe 2 to 3 years ago. But like, I think, it's probably taken to the extreme, at least in my experience. I never had that.
I
cool.
I think I do, because people show interest and then they see like my account where I'm like named a vegan and I just do vegan content and I make memes, and they're like, I've had comments like, "Oh, you're really vegan," and then they stop talking to me. So I think it does put people off. Like
Sorry, did they stop talking to you, like,
like
just because you were vegan?
well, they seem to have like like interest, and
All
then the
right.
interest feigned as soon as they then looked at my
Yeah.
actual like account and saw that it was like vegan, and then the interest just kind of dwindled. So
Yeah.
I think it does put people off.
Okay.
Because
Like,
I
it's a bit too shallow. Like, if so, like, maybe it's a good way to, like, let's say, I don't know how to repel anything that's too,
yeah,
maybe it's a good way. Like, I've
it is,
never
I think
thought of that.
it's good to put yourself out there properly and
Yeah.
be unapologetic about what your stances are, because then you weed out who won't like you. But I do think it is a repellent if you're someone who's quite involved. Like, I just live and breathe veganism. It's all I really do. Like so I think that just does put people off, because they're kind of happy with the idea of a plant-based person who they could probably eat their corpses with, who might even just eat a corpse every once in a while, but then when they realize, actually, no, you are vegan, you care about animals, this person's probably going to make me feel a bit guilty, then they change. But I have had a few people who, like, one of my girlfriends, my ex-girlfriend, I asked her if she was vegan, but she was vegetarian at the time, and she went, "I am now," and that the rest is history. So it can be like activism in a way when you're dating. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's actually a question. I've spoken to like women about dating men and how men will pretend to be like not vegan, but they'll pretend to be like, "Oh yeah, I love animals too," and like they'll pretend to be plant-based to please them, and then they'll go and eat burgers or whatever. And like, and obviously as a vegan man, like, I've experienced dating non-vegan women, but I've never actually spoke to a woman about dating women. So like, what is that like? Are women more were you like dating women who've been non-vegan? Would you say, although, I mean, have you dated both men and women, or just women? Like,
I've dated a man when I was like 14, so no, I've never dated a vegan man or anything, and I've never dated a non-vegan since being vegan, so I haven't got a really good like I haven't, like, so the first when I properly dated, she she went vegan just like that, and she still is vegan even though we're not together. So and
Okay.
the other one I dated, she was vegan anyway and had been vegan for 6 years like me. So but I'm sure it'd probably be nearly the same with women. I'm not sure. I feel like maybe guys would do it a bit more, but because I think there are more women in the movement. Women seem a bit more susceptible to it. I don't know if it's because of the alpha thing or because of, like, I don't know, it's seen as a compassionate thing and women are expected to be more compassionate. I don't know if that's the case, but I think the women be more receptive to it. But I wouldn't put it past them to be cheeky and pretend. Oh, actually, I can tell you, the person who was vegetarian, she was vegetarian with her previous girlfriend, and the minute her girlfriend broke up with her, she went back to eating animals. So it does happen. I think that's pretty common among.
I think that's pretty common among couples, and I think the example of like somebody faking it to try and get into bed with someone else. I think I'm going to go ahead on a limb here and say that's more common in men, because I think men in general are more desperate. Desperate for women. You gotta admit, it's so true. I'm sorry. There's dudes get really thirsty and they'll do anything. And I think I don't know. I'm just going ahead. I'm guessing, right? If you're in the comments right now and you're a woman who's experienced this with a man, or a man who's experienced this with a man, and whatever, I'd love to know if I'm right with this guess. If men are more desperate and therefore do this more often, because I feel it in my gut that it's true. I do feel it in my gut. Yeah. But I think the benefit is like you were both saying, is that I think it was more like Vasilios, I think you were saying this more in that it's a filter system, if anything, right? I don't know, I think you both said it. It can be a filter, it can be a way of weeding out the people that you don't actually want to waste any time with. But then again, if you are just out there trying to have something casual, that could suck, because then if you're not, if someone's just like really wants to go out and have fun, then it would be shitty if people kept rejecting them because they're vegan. But if you're looking for somebody you actually want to spend time with, then this is good if they don't want to date you, right? Fuck them, because straight away, right?
I would say, like, my experience, before I'm in a relationship 2 years now. So before that, because I'm almost 5 years vegan now, so the past 3 years were like, you don't really get, most women, I'd like, in my experience, they did not have a problem, because I was not really keen on, going out with someone and she's going to get something with meat or with dairy and I'm going to, take something without. But anything, anything casual was just okay with that. I always, asked politely and stuff like that. But I never had an experience, like, oh, but you're vegan. Like, at least in my, experience, I don't know. I've heard quite a few stories though about men saying, "Oh yes, I'm not gonna eat meat. I love animals. I have, I, I can, maybe confirm that, but this is my experience as well. Doesn't say anything, because I've heard the stories. I don't know how true they were."
Yeah, man, I'm with you. I mean, I actually haven't shared my experience here either. I think, like, I don't think anyone's ever told me I won't date you because you're a vegan. But I think people have broken it off with me for that reason, or like they've said I don't think it's working for that reason. Because like there's obviously now I'm with Annie, who is vegan, so there's absolutely no problem at all here. And I can see that that's going to be for the foreseeable future. I don't see that changing. So that's awesome. But like in the past, I think that there's two things that I've been upfront with people about, right? Two things that I won't stand for, or that I do stand for, sorry, but I won't stand for in a partner. Like veganism and smoking. There's two things. And it's like, if you want to stuff your face with dead animals and smoke, then this ain't going to work. Simple as that. I'm upfront with it, because it's like there's no point beating around the bush. There's no point lying to you. If you're a vegan but you smoke, it's not gonna work. I can't handle it. If you don't smoke but you stuff your face with dead bodies, it's not going to work. Like, it's simple as that. And I think, I guess, again, for anyone watching, if you're having some bad experiences or you think that I'm being too harsh here, you think this is the way it pushes people away, look, you got to remember that there are a shitload of people in the world, and you do not have to settle for people that don't fit with what you want. You really don't. I see a few people saying like, oh, there's only so many people in my area, blah, 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 stuff like that. Look, it's bullshit. Don't stop. You're telling yourself this, and it's really negative. It's pessimistic. There are shitloads of people in the world, and I promise you that you don't need to make do with someone who doesn't match what you look for in someone else. You really don't. Be patient. It'll happen.
No, if anything, it's like, it's kind of cruel if you know that you're getting, you know, obviously some things can be subject to change. You can change these things in people, but at the same time, you know, they'd be better suited to somebody who likes doing the things they like doing, and you'd be better suited and happier and a better partner to someone who, you know, you get on better with and your core values are in alignment. So it's you're not doing anyone any harm by just being, you know, setting your boundaries clearly and saying, this is what I want, you know, in a partner. You've got no obligation to be with anyone. So, you know, you're not doing anything harmful by just being like that. I don't think it's harsh at all.
Awesome. No, I totally agree. And I'm going to switch the topic now, unless you've got anything else to say on this. Either you guys, you want to move on?
Just one last thing. I would say that maybe you're cutting yourself short by, you know, because it usually it doesn't work. Like in the long run, that the person either, you know, changes and, you know, he realizes what's happening towards veganism and towards the animals, and or you just have a continuous you know, situation of fighting and being mad about, or just suppressing any emotion you have. So it just doesn't work. I don't know. For me, it would never work. Any.
Totally. But yeah, be honest with yourself, be honest with other people. It's pretty much it. And if you're already in a relationship, if somebody did say they're already in a relationship, it's still all about honesty. It really is. You've got to be totally honest with them. And yeah, you've got to try and work through it. And I know it's going to be really, really horrible and hard. And I know Grumpy Vegan Granddad is going through that right now, and he's doing his best. And that's all you can do. You can only do your best. Be honest with them. Open your heart to them. Tell them how it makes you feel. Show them what's going on in your mind. And that's all you can really do. You can't force them to do anything. You shouldn't force them to do anything, and you shouldn't be ashamed of yourself for trying to stand for something that is right. You know, don't let them shame you if they try to. But we're going to move on to another topic, and it's kind of linked with the smoking example that I just gave. Then I said smoking is one of the things that I absolutely hate, and this is I'll give you guys a warning. It's not a particularly nice thing we're about to show and discuss, but I want to discuss it because I don't think it gets discussed enough. So I'll show you this now. I'm putting it up on the screen. So this is about animal experimentation. So again, there's some images in here that aren't very nice, but I want to discuss it with you guys. I think it's something that's largely ignored by the animal rights and vegan communities. They've been doing vaping experiments on pregnant mice. Vaping, if those of you that don't know what vaping is, it's like cigarettes, but with the electric cigarettes. So yeah, this has been happening. The National Institute of Health apparently they've been awarded like $2.3 million, 1.76 million pounds to do research on pregnant mice, see if it risks children, see if it increases the risk of children that have asthma, vaping, right? And they've been doing this horrible shit to them by putting them in these inhalation tubes, which you can see now, but they force them to inhale the vape smoke, right? The reason I brought this up, of course, is because this is fucking horrific. I'll leave that on just for a few more seconds, just like so you can see what I'm talking about. This is pregnant mice in inhalation tubes being forced to inhale vape smoke. Now, I know for sure that there are many, many vegans out there who are like vaping, smoking, you know, and either don't know or don't consider or don't want to consider that smoking, like most cigarette, tobacco, and now obviously you can see vaping equipment, it's been tested on or is being tested on animals right now. And I would like what you guys think about this, and why do you think that vegans or the animal rights movement in general, the vegan movement in general, vegan community, whatever you want to call it, why do you think this is often ignored, and many vegans will, you know, draw a line at stuff like smoking, for example. They'll just be like, yeah, you know, smoking, and they just don't look into that. You know, they'll draw the line there and not do the research, or if I bring this up, they'll be like, yeah, but you know, and not actually stop the vaping, or you know, what do you think? What do you think is the reason for that?
I think the reason probably is because, well, a lot of them are going to be doing it themselves, and because of the addictive nature of it. That's probably why, because it contains an addictive substance. So I think people may be scared to say to people who already have it, like, difficulty giving stuff up without looking quite pushy or preachy. That's maybe why people like avoid doing it, because it is, you know, like, there's nothing really about animal products that's addictive except like the minute morphine element to cheese, right? But apart from that, there's nothing inherently addictive about it. So maybe that's why people sway away from it, because it's like nicotine's like the most addictive substance, one of the most addictive substances at least. So I think it's like a touchy topic for like anyone to even approach, because it almost feels like it's out of people's control in people's minds.
Right.
So that's probably why people avoid it, or they do it themselves and they know it's a problem. And obviously, if you're dealing with someone, you know, someone's got like a coke problem, you know, they'll be like, I don't have a problem, it's fine, it's not bad for you, it's, you know, all these things. So I think maybe it's a bit of denial mixed with the discomfort of knowing it's an addictive substance. But yeah.
What do you think, man?
So I was one of those vegans that were smoking, by the way. If we were to meet a year ago, I would be. And in Greece, like they say, I don't think so far I've seen anything that it's written that there are two companies, if I'm not mistaken, that they do not test on animals. But I know, and I found out that nicotine as a substance is being tested on animals. So I would go ahead and say like it's really addictive. Like it's not just the nicotine as nicotine. It's just the whole process of it. Like you are in a nice place, and then but you have to be in a nice place, and you should be smoking, or you're eating something, and after you eat something, you get or you have to smoke. So it took me a while. Like it you know it takes a while to realize what's happening, and it really takes a while to realize like that you either do something about this or you don't do something about this. And it's maybe it's a gradually I started counting days, like this is day 1, day 2, day 3, and after a while it just stopped counting days. And there were moments, like especially when you have you're feeling a little bit low, or you're feeling that I mean it's just one cigarette, like what's gonna change. But you have to say no to all of those moments, and maybe a year after that you still have this. It's not like a super huge urge that you cannot control, but you have
Yeah.
to have that clarity to say no to that, to whatever that
Yeah.
addictive substance is. And like I think that everyone is, well, just to I'm thinking I'm going too far ahead, but I think that pretty much everyone knows how addictive those things are, regardless, like any type of drug. So to say that like there aren't any consequences no matter what, like they tested on mice, they used to be testing that on mice, and they, unless the supply of that, sorry, the demand of that goes to zero, they're still
Yeah.
probably going to do this as they test pharmaceuticals on animals, which is another totally different topic. But like this is totally let's say you don't have to have nicotine to survive, regarding the instead it's the opposite. You don't need any nicotine or or tar or whatever. So which is, I understand, like I'm not saying as I'm better than anyone, but it's, you have to
Oh,
realize
you are.
what's important.
Totally are, man. You're like totally on your moral high horse right now. You're just making everyone feel so guilty.
Well, I apologize, but
No,
I do
it's all.
not
I'm
feel
joking.
any remorse.
No, but it's I totally get you. Yeah, I mean, where I stand on this, I agree with both of you. I understand both of you at least, and I agree with both of you on most of what you said. I think for me, I mean, I have like a vendetta against smoke. Like literally, if you were to ask me what is the like, my number one thing is the animals and veganism and animal rights. If you ask me what my number two thing is, it would be smoking. I fucking hate it, like with a vengeance. Like it's I think it's the most disgusting thing. I can't stand it. So when I find out that these companies are testing smoking equipment and smoking different things that go into smoking on mice like this, I'm just pissed off because I'm like, look, like as vegans, would it not make sense that we just say like, yeah, the smoking is being tested on animals. I don't need to do it. Why don't we just cut it out? It gives you fucking cancer. Like, what do you need to stop smoking? Like, not only is it fucking you up, but it's also killing animals. What more could you possibly need to motivate you, right? And also, Roger Yates made a comment, and I'm interested in just sharing this because this is, I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you do, Ellie, but Vasilios, I'm not sure if you know who Roger Yates is, but he's a pretty well-known activist been in the movement for a very, very long time. And he says that the movement used to be focused on vivisection, that's animal testing, large marches in the 1980s, 12,000 in Britain, and in the USA in 1990, possibly 75,000 people went out on march against animal testing, vivisection, which actually doesn't surprise me because I think 9 out of 10 people that you speak to and say they're against animal testing for like cosmetics and cigarettes and shit like that. So whether they're vegan or not, I'd say it would be pretty easy to get like tens of thousands of people out to protest. So if you had that, not easy, but you get what I'm saying. It would be easier than getting them out to protest for against bacon, for example. That would be much more difficult, right? But it would be a much easier task. So it doesn't surprise me. But do you think there's an argument to maybe refocus? Because I feel like it has lost the focus. I mean, when I was young in England, when I went out and protested with my mum, which was not many times, but it happened, it was always for vivisection. It was always about animal testing. It was almost like the only things you could protest for, the only things that were going on were animal testing and hunt sabbing. That was it. There were no protests at slaughterhouses. There were no protests there were very, very few of these kind of street stalls where you would give some flyers out about veganism. There were people doing that, but the main protests, they were about animal testing and they were hunt sabbing, things that most of the public could get behind. So do you think there's some sense in that to go for something that the public would really get behind and spend more time on that? Or do you think what we're doing now is the right way, where we're focusing on veganism and the ethics as a whole, the whole thing all in one?
Well, I think with the direct action, if you focus on the specific thing that's happening, then I think you can be way more effective. And, because of these, vivisection focuses, there have been it was originally the Dr. Hadwin Trust, but now it's called Animal Free Research UK or something like that, who specialize in, trying to not use vivisection. But I think, because the first times I started dealing with seeing really bad things that were happening to animals was vivisection, was the moon bears and what we do to them in Vietnam, and it makes you question God, if we're doing these horrible things, because vivisection is one of the darkest, most terrifying concepts for an animal, then what else are we doing? And that led me to become vegan, because it's we have no mercy for them. And because people a lot of the time they go, okay, well, not on cosmetics because we don't really need cosmetics, and not on smoking because we already know it's bad, but yes, on life-saving surgeries, do it on human research. And it's well, actually, when you look into vivisection and you understand it, it seems from what the scientists say that it's actually quite harmful to even use animals in the first place. And it's not, people don't know these seemingly simple things, that the reason they use animals is because it's a cheap way to collect a lot of data. And from my understanding, scientists, when they do studies, they are paid per the quantity of the study, not the quality of the study. So if they can conduct mice studies, even though they're not really applicable to humans, it's going to have to go to human trials anyway, they've got their money. So it's these things that are really important for people to understand, but when you tell them, it's like news to them. So I think we've lost the understanding we had of vivisection, and people do need to know that animal testing, maybe I'm completely wrong, but from my understanding, it's just not needed, and it can be quite detrimental and it leads to false outcomes. So yeah.
So yes, any comment? What do you think about this?
Yeah. So first of all, I would go ahead and say that I was against smoke, as well. I did not know what happened, when I was little. I literally remember that we had arguments about that, fights even. Um, like I have not, let's say, put it to the test. But we have some, similarities with mice. I'm no expert or anything, but I do not really think that's, it's, I don't know. It's we're not the same. We're not the same. And if it's to go to, human testing after all, like, why do we need that? We do know that nicotine is and tar, and anything in the cigarette is harmful. So what? I mean, at least why do we continue to do that for something that we already know? Like, what changes? So I would say, like, uh, yeah, it's an industry that it's even, I would say, scarier, because some people, they claim that, but it's about the the survival of the human race, or if it's something, but that it's essential. So I think it's really, it's deep down, I would say we do not need that, as far as, of no expert as I am. Also, I would like to say that, as vegans, that they smoke, and they know, like, pretty much everyone knows that this is bad. Like, we're past that, and I think if you're already a vegan, you have the awareness to see and look what's good for you. It's in the end, like, it's a move that you can change for you. So this is really important in the end.
The
Yep.
reason that it happens, and I think this is the same kind of line of reasoning when it comes to crop deaths, though, like the worst anti-vegan nonsense I've heard in my life. But you know how animals, like, they are being killed, and it seems like we can't actually stop that from happening. But it's just like it's the legal requirement, as far as I'm aware. I think Roger Yates has said it, that that you need to legally test something on an animal before it goes to human trials. But if you look up, like, Animal Free Research UK, they show these alternatives that you can use. Like, they can generate skin grafts, so they can directly test it on skin without an actual human participant. There are these things that exist, but one, like in the case of crop deaths, we don't value animals enough to consider them in a practice, so that hasn't happened, so the law hasn't changed. And two, because the money needs to be invested in these alternatives, so you would need to change the law. That's what would need to happen. You right there, David?
Guys, I don't know if you can hear me right now, but I've just lost
Yes.
all my audio. So
We
you
can
can
hear you.
continue on this topic for a second while I fix this. That'll be awesome. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, cool.
So I wanted to say something regarding, like, yeah, because it said, like, is it good, to march for things like vivisection, or things, regarding animals? And I think it's a really, really important, because, some people, they need, to find a way to, let's say, be led to veganism, to, in a way, to desensitize themselves. I had to adopt a dog and say, like, I have a dog, how can I be eating, animals similar to dogs when there is no need? And, like, okay, I'm a vegan now. So I think that, like, anything, there is only so much time in the end, but I think there are, there are ways to get someone to realize what we do to animals. It's something we should, be focusing on. And, as I said before, like, veganism is the bare minimum. We can, just start from that and see um what we can do from that. Also, like, it's really important to, like, some people that are really passionate about fur, some others that are really passionate about fish, or let's say, I don't know, pigs or goats, or because some others like about vivisection. So it's really, in my opinion, I think it's a good thing to have people that are passionate about one thing. They know a lot more about that thing, and they can provide change in a way.
Yeah, if you get into the thing that they're passionate about, then it may follow that they then make the decision and understand that they need to be consistent. You just have to hit them. You have to find, there's a term, appealing to someone's elephant, where you find they've got like a logical side and emotional side, and their emotion, they're fully emotional. So you got to just appeal to their emotion essentially, and find that thing that really makes them in tune with their emotions, and use that to get them to connect with your message. So, David, are we getting any closer? We're having a problem.
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, so
okay.
I'll explain what's going on really quickly. It's kind of boring for anyone who doesn't get it, but basically these things have a microphone in them, right? And I also have a microphone here, but my phone won't let me choose this microphone without disabling these headphones. So I either have to have everything here or nothing. That's basically what's going on right now, which is fucking stupid. So is my audio okay, or is it really bad? Some people were saying it's bad.
It's like, it's all right. It's all right. But when I listened to it on YouTube, it sounded a little bit worse. So I think we're hearing it maybe a bit. Yeah.
Oh, well, it is what it is. Nothing I can do about it, unfortunately. I guess I don't know.
You need some new headphones. You need some new headphones.
The microphone on the headphones is shit. The headphones are great. The thing is, I've got my external mic is set up, so maybe if I take forget it, it's all right. We'll go as we are. Right, I'll figure it out for the next live stream. It's all right. It's all good. But I'll just share my thoughts on this as well about the animal testing, and yeah, I think what Vasilios just said about how there shouldn't be a problem if some people have some areas that they're extremely educated in, let's say, or passionate about. Then that's great. That could be something that we can split down into issues that we are more knowledgeable on and more passionate about. I guess my point was that, is there an argument to say that maybe more vegans, more animal rights activists, is there an argument for them to put more of a focus on animal testing, because it seems like there's less of a focus on it, especially right now. There's more of a focus on animal agriculture in general, and not necessarily on animal testing. So that kind of was the question. I know that, or I assume that Roger Yates would be saying yes, and I think most of the, let's say, old school OG activists would say yes, because I think that's what they were focusing on, and they found some success in that, and they found that they could get thousands of people out onto the streets and to protest about this, and get thousands of signatures and thousands of lots of support, basically. So maybe that could be something to to consider, to bring back a focus on that and to see how that will go in 2020, right? Because people nowadays are more aware of veganism, they're more aware of what's going on in animal culture, and that's difficult for them to accept. But it's going to be very easy for people to accept that animal testing is fucking evil. I think 9 out of 10 people, vegan or not, are going to say, oh yeah, totally, that's evil. So maybe this is a good I don't know what you call it, gateway, maybe entrance into this world. Maybe we should be putting more time into it. And I've had this discussion with other people too. I've thought about it myself, like how would I implement this, because I think it could be, obviously those animals need to be defended. Don't get me wrong, it's not just a tactic. It is, you do it for bad reasons, but it is also a good tactic. It is also a good way to get people interested, let's say, involved, aware. It could be a gateway for that.
And as Michelle's saying, like, rodents are very clever, genetically close to humans. So I think it's a good way if you get like a small animal who, like, a lot of the time people think small means unintelligent. They conflate that with, not being smart enough to understand the world around you and perceive and have emotions. But if you could, use them and as an example of actually, no, we've underestimated the intelligence of these beings, and get them to empathize more with an animal that's not like them, then it might help them make the connection with other animals that we've deemed stupid, like any bird, like a chicken. So it'd just be a brilliant kind of way to, bleed in the rest of the animals. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, cool. Are you anything to add here, man? Maybe we can close off and jump on to a new topic.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, but also like, a good thing like that came to my mind is like maybe having a protest for that, and then maybe go watch Dominion or something.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, just a way to correlate things. Guys, you're interested about this, but what about that? So it's always, it's a starting point to influence people in a good way for the for the good of animals. So it's, I really agree with you.
Definitely, man. So did you both watch the video about like that poultry website put up with the what's her name, director of communications or vice president of communications from the Animal Agriculture Alliance? Did you see that on my 5-Minute Friday? Did you catch that?
Yes,
I can go through.
I think so. But if you could refresh, wasn't it the one where she was saying that, oh, you can't reason with vegans or something?
Yeah. So let me pull. Actually, I'm not going to pull it up. I'm going to leave it. I'll pull up her picture just so people can see. I don't know, some kind of, this gives them some collection. I'll pull up a little screen of this real quick, just to show what I'm talking about. So basically, I want to talk about this a little bit more. So this woman here, her name's Hannah Thompson-Weeman. She works with the Animal Agriculture Alliance. She's done a few different articles about animal rights activists and vegans, and she made this video with this What Poultry, this website, What Poultry. The cool thing is, well, not cool, but I guess kind of funny in a way, thing is that I can only see this because I registered with that website. So I'm not an official member of this website. It's free, but it's kind of weird, right? And I think they're going to send me newsletters and stuff, which is great because I can obviously keep up to date with what's going on. Yeah, so this video, just to give you an idea of what it said. I'm not going to play it. You can check it out on my 5-Minute Friday if you want. But the video, she was basically answering the question of what do retailers need to do when they are getting faced with animal rights activists, right? Pressure from animal rights activists. This is happening to retailers, it's happening to just businesses that are being supplied to by the animal agriculture industries. And she's been asked this question as the vice president of communications, like, what do you think we should do? And her advice was basically ignore the activists and do what is right for your consumers and what is right for your business, right? That was her advice. I know what I think about this, and I find it, to be honest with you, I find it desperate, and I want to talk about it again because it's fucking hilarious. Like, imagine that being your advice. Like, I know there were 2 pieces of advice: ignore them, and the second piece of advice, or whatever order it was that they should speak to the farmers for the real truth. Like, these activists, they're lying. It's all bullshit. Speak to the farmers. They know what's best. They know what's truth. It's the most desperate shit I think I've ever seen from these guys. So what are your initial reactions to that? That the fact that they're making these kinds of videos, like the industry leaders are making kind of videos to tell retailers to ignore us. What do you think?
It's just straight up manipulation, and it's so clear to see. And they think they can get away with it because they manipulate people into eating animals and being okay with it. So they really do think that the consumer's stupid. And it's like, well, no, the consumer's just not informed and easily manipulated. That's the difference. So I think if what we were saying was so bad, what they would respond is, listen to them if you want, but like, do your actual research, and then you'll come to find that, oh, it's what they're saying is false. If we didn't have a point, they wouldn't want us to be steered clear of, really, would they? So it's clear they're scared. Their jimmies are being rustled, And yeah, it's kind of funny. It's almost funny.
Definitely.
Yeah. Also,
Go
if
ahead,
they
man.
would, even if they, if they wouldn't care, they wouldn't address that. Like, let's start with that. Like, they would just, I mean, what vegan activists? So, I mean, what happened? Or, animal rights activists. So, I mean, it's, you can see change pretty much everywhere. Like, you can see, supermarkets, like especially here in Greece, they just have products they never had before, like 3 years ago, 2 years ago. You can see a change, and you cannot really measure that. I really doubt that anyone actually measures the change that's happening, but pretty much like it's, it, in my opinion, it's inevitable. The thing is, how long will it take? And they cannot really do anything about that. Like, ignore them. Let's say they wouldn't ignore us, or they wouldn't ignore the activists. Like, what would they do? Like, I don't know.
If
I just just try to get in my mind. Like, okay, she would give another type of advice. What would that be? What would they do?
Well, the thing is, if they really had the best interests of the animals in mind, as they claim to have, right? They're like, we just want the best for these animals. We're all about the welfare. We're doing our best. It's just these activists. They just want to finish us. They just hate our business. They just hate us. Like, yeah, that's exactly what's going on. We've just got this irrational hate for you. It's nothing to do with the fact that you fucking exploit animals' bodies for money. Anyway, the point, she could have said something like, oh, yeah, listen to them, because maybe they've exposed, I don't know, a really bad business. But she could have said, like, but, come to us because we can find you one that is better, higher welfare, like, something like that, some practical advice for them rather than just ignore them, even though they might be right. She's not accepted any responsibility for the fact that maybe these activists have uncovered one of the most disgusting farms in the country of wherever this is happening. And they've told these retailers that, hey, look what's going on here. It would have been a way more mature response from this woman, this director or whatever, for her to say they might have a point, right? Maybe this specific farm wasn't up to the welfare standards. I know we don't agree, but this is the way that she could have handled it in a way that wouldn't have had me pulling her up onto a video and ripping the shit out of her. You know what I mean? Because what she actually did was just like, oh, no, they're definitely wrong. Like, I don't know what they're talking about in this specific case, but they're definitely wrong. Just ignore them. It's like, how could you be so short-sighted, arrogant, to believe that every single farm, every single slaughterhouse fits your good standards? And I'm doing that because obviously we know that's not true, but you see my point here, right? I'm trying to talk as in her world, what she should.
Yeah, I understand.
Would make more sense.
Understand. But like I just want to, because you can just really say that this is a lip service, like this is, yeah, but the reality is that. So how can you say that this is not the worst of the worst, or and there is better, or lead your to another supplier. What would I say here, like, is how, like, in the long run, like, do you think actually they are going to have to implement higher welfare standards and avoid this, or is it something that they would ignore? This is speculation, but what do you think is going to happen? Like, would it continue, like, ignoring and exposing, or would it actually change to a better situation when there will still be that activism and videos and stuff like that?
What do you mean? If they actually do ignore us, if the retailers actually ignore the act, right,
if they
then
don't change,
all that's going to happen is, I said this in the video, and I just stand by this, is that yes, most people are hypocrites, right? Don't get me wrong. Most people are hypocrites, but they are starting to wake up a little bit more to things that in the past they would have done without even thinking, right? They're seeing more things. They're opening YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and Twitter, and they're seeing, holy shit, like this animal having their throat slit. Oh, holy shit. Well, look at this. Oh my God, look at this vegan burger. Like, oh my God, protest. Like, oh my God, they're getting all of this information, right? So they're becoming more aware of these things. They're becoming more sensitive to these things. So if one of these companies, we see something like activists expose a farm that's horrific, right? There's something happening, and they listen to the advice of the Animal Agriculture Alliance, and they ignore the activists So the activists go public and state how they got ignored by that retailer. They're going to have to change because the public is fucking crazy. And yes, they're hypocrites. Don't get me wrong. The public are hypocrites. They're complete hypocrites. But they're very powerful in this case because although they're hypocrites and you know, there is the high welfare doesn't make much of a fucking difference when the animals go to the same slaughterhouse, them preaching and pushing for higher welfare is going to cause problems for those retailers, and they're going to have to listen to activists. They're going to have to start listening to activists. So I think this is what this Hannah has completely overlooked, that the public will pressure for high welfare if the retailer doesn't respond to the activists and do something about it themselves. The public will get behind that, right? That's what I think she's completely missed. Yeah. Any thoughts? Have I rambled on for too long on that?
No. That's good. That's good. I just wanted to see, you know, what would be the outcome of that, which is it makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah. Any thoughts, Ellie?
I completely agree. You stole the words out of my mouth. I have nothing further to add on that element. She's slime ball. naughty, cheeky.
And it's just, as I said in my video, it makes me very happy to see the desperation from them, that they're telling people to don't listen to them. I
know, they look scared.
They
look scared. It's funny.
It makes me very happy.
They always look scared.
They do.
Yeah.
When they talk about activists, they really always seem to be kind of like, I don't know, it's like overcompensating. There's like the saying that, I don't know what movie it comes from. It's like an old movie. It's like the lady don't protest too much. It's like when you are protesting so much that you are not scared, you're most likely terrified of what's going on. Oh, we're so confident, guys. Don't worry, these activists aren't going to get us. And then it's like, you're so overcompensating for the fact that you're terrified of them finding all of this shit and exposing it to the public over and over again. Yeah.
I mentioned this in my most recent video about like dairy farmers specifically. Like I have TikTok. I don't know if you have it, but like I can guarantee the farmer trolls in there are always dairy farmers. Like they seem the most nervous. You've got that February dairy thing that happened, and that was coined by a really desperate farmer who, again, was someone who's like, ignore, you know, like she was all like, oh, have good discourse with the vegans, don't block them and stuff. But then she ended up saying block and ignore. Like, it's just, it looks so desperate and thirsty. It's hilarious. I fried off it.
Exactly. Roger's here, by the way. I just added you in now. Hey, Roger, can you hear me?
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
Good. Hey,
hey.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Welcome.
I wanted to add to what you just said, I think, in the sense that it's interesting, you know, this idea about whether we need to get involved with welfare or respond to, you know, what the welfare kind of people are talking about. I think that's what you were talking about. I was doing a few other things at the time. There's a sociologist called Richard Gale, and his perspective is really interesting. For example, when we think about social movements and their counter movements, we usually think about that kind of relationship between those two things. But Richard Gale talked about the relationship between social movements, counter movements, and the state, or the state agencies. And so basically, this paper shows that animal rights people should never, or don't need ever, to get involved with animal welfare, because by promulgating an animal rights case, you end up with welfare anyway. So the way this works is, as you were saying, David, about the public pressurizing, it works another way, that if you create what I tend to call social turbulence, then that tends to mean that, say you're outside a circus, you're saying, you know, we're opposed to animal use, this is a form of animal rights violations, we're opposed to that. They tend to translate that to welfare because they can't deal with the animal rights arguments, because that would mean abolition for them. And if there's enough social turbulence, especially if it gets into the media, then the minister in charge of regulating all that will get onto the circus and say, look, I'm getting a lot of shit here, do something about it. And of course, the only thing they can do is improve the welfare. So then they improve the welfare, and then the minister then says, well, you know, we've looked into this, we've talked to the industry, and they've created more welfare regulations, blah, blah, blah. to try to kind of, if you like, get everybody off their back. And that is created by people making animal rights points. And so you don't need really to get involved with animal welfare. So I think that kind of goes towards some of the things that you were saying. So hopefully that is the case. But if not, I apologize.
No, it's totally, yeah.
No.
I think it's kind of similar to something I say when people tell me, I've had people ask me, why don't you advocate for someone to go vegetarian? And you know, as a step, like they ask me that, like, what's so wrong with that? And I kind of say something very similar to what you've just said. I say, like, if you advocate for veganism, most people are going to go vegetarian before they go vegan. I don't want them to, but they'll do it anyway because they see, like, oh, veganism is just this big thing that's going to be so hard, so I'll go veggie first and then I'll be vegan later. Most people, I'd say majority of us even, like I'm included, that's kind of what we did. That was the journey we went down. But advocating for vegetarianism is not going to give us, that's not going to provide that solution. It's actually going to make people probably just reduce, and advocating for someone to reduce is going to make them do nothing. So we advocate for veganism because it's the right thing to do, obviously, by the animals. It's the right thing to advocate for abolition, but also because...
Yeah, it's the most honest thing to do. I mean, it used to be, like people come up to our stall in Dublin and they kind of say, they announce the fact that they're vegetarian and they're kind of looking for validation. They want us to say, oh, that's great, you know, and this kind of stuff. And I always say, well, there's a cure for that. And kind of make a bit of a joke out of it. But it used to be that the movement used to say, go vegan first. Go vegetarian first as a kind of stepping stone regarding vegetarianism as some kind of gateway to veganism. Whereas now it's more like be as vegan as possible and kick out the vegetarian stage. Because I mean, I've known over the years, I've known lots of people who get stuck in vegetarianism. And, you know, you see it on social media all the time, people saying, you know, I really regret the amount of years that I spent as a vegetarian because they thought they were doing enough, and then they found out something else, and then they realized that they should have gone vegan in the first place. So it is very important for vegans to always maintain the focus on veganism and nothing else. If there's people who want to do lesser than vegan stuff, well, let them do that. Let the reducitarians do that. You know, if people want to, you know, promote vegetarianism, then let the vegetarians do that. The vegans should stick with what we believe. It's the honest thing to do, and we're telling people our position, you know. And there's no point in trying to be a politician about it and second guess people. We just need to tell them what the consistent moral position is from an animal rights point of view, vegan point of view, and stick to that and see how it goes, and let them decide if they want to go on a journey, you know. Because again, you know, people come up and they kind of go, well, look, I'm on a journey and veganism is a destination. Well, that's not too bad in the sense that they know at least where they're going. And then you can kind of trust them to kind of move towards getting there. And of course, your job at that stage then is to create a pathway for them or to help them if you know, if they think I'm struggling with this, that, or the other, and you can maybe help. But, you know, so long as they know the destination, that's good. You know, some people think, well, you know, I mean, it's interesting, really. It's like, until about 4 or 5 years ago, all the big groups, Animal Aids and Vivas and all this kind of stuff, they were frightened of the word vegan because vegan was seen as a scare word in those days. Whereas now they've kind of been kicked, you know, screaming into the vegan community now, and they'll now promote veganism in a relatively consistent way now. You know, they used to put out these very graphic pictures and videos, and then it would say "Go Veg" at the end because they were scared of veganism. They thought, you know, or veggie, or even anybody remember that thing about vegan, VEG?
Oh, the egg thing.
Yeah. I really hate that. I always have. Really.
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier because I was saying about how, like, if you don't have conviction and you don't set an end goal or a bare minimum, at least high standard, then nobody's going to respect that position enough to actually at least come towards it. So you know, if you know that you've got this end goal and you are someone with the ability to argue for that, to stick by that, to practice it yourself, then why waver on that? Like, why?
Some people think you've got to do the kind of foot in the door type thing, like give people a small thing to do and then lead them through that. And I mean, it's interesting because you got a lot of reducitarians, you got the Nick Coonies of the world, and you got the Tobias Leonhards, the vegan strategists, and all this kind of stuff. And they will do this kind of gradual kind of stuff. You know, Melanie Joy in this kind of camp. Whereas someone like Casey Taft would say, no, actually, there's a lot of psychological research where the big ask is what's necessary. You tell them what your end goal is, and you're just honest with people, rather than trying to kind of just jimmy them along for a while. I mean, Leonard's position is, well, you kind of try and get them vaguely vegan for 20 years and then a bit more vegan and this kind of stuff. Well, you know, the research doesn't even back that up. You can actually just tell them the truth and let them move towards it. And that seems to be the best thing. You know, also, it's the most honest thing for us to do, isn't it? We're vegan activists. We stand for veganism. We're opposed to rights violations. So we say that. You know, what's wrong with telling the truth?
It needs to be a strong message. And last week, I think you even mentioned this, or maybe it was the week before, about saying that if anything, we could even be advocating for people to become activists, because then they would hold being an activist final goal, and who knows, maybe that would actually encourage them to become vegan much quicker. Right? Because when we say go vegan, as I said earlier, most people are going to go vegetarian first. If we say, okay, you should come out on the streets with me, maybe they'll say, okay, let me go vegan first, all right? I don't think I'm ready for that yet. This could actually be like a solid tactic, solid strategy to, you know, and also it's for the right thing. We're encouraging people to be active. I think it's a good thing.
I agree with that, David. The real problem there is that sometimes go vegan means adopt a plant-based diet. And of course, this is why I'm very critical. Those people who know me, I'm very critical of any people who want to try and reduce what veganism means, because veganism is a very kind of powerful, revolutionary, radical statement, you know, about justice and everything. And so anybody wants to slim that down, I'm kind of opposed to that, you know. And again, there's kind of no need to do it. The best thing for us to do is say, well, look, we talk about a philosophy here. We talk about a worldview. We talk about a vegan mindset. And so that moves you completely away from ideas about diet and ideas about reducing. It's about bringing about a just world. I mean, that was the vision of the pioneers, the people who started our movement. They had a really radical vision of what they wanted, you know, because as we know, the vegan movement was started during the Second World War, you know, and that really kind of shattered them. They say it was a shattering experience, but they were trying to work out why humans had become so violent. And they thought that veganism was the solution. And they figured out that if we liberate other animals, we would also be liberating ourselves. So they got a really kind of brilliant kind of radical vision of the future, you know, and that's what we should be kind of telling people. We don't have much time environmentally. We probably don't have much time anyway. So there's no point in pussyfooting around and saying, well, in 20 years' time, we'll tell you this and we'll tell you that. You know, we've got to get going. You know, we haven't got a lot of time.
Definitely, and even if we did have a lot of time, the animals don't. You know, like look at the speed, look at the rate that this is happening to them. Even if we didn't have this potential climate disaster on the cards, it would still be that we don't have time to dilly-daddle around this and like fuck around and messing around, giving people weak messages and, you know, acting like it's not a big deal, like it's really. And I know some people watching. Again, I want to be conscious of people watching, and that I know some of you maybe are new to all of this, so maybe you've not been involved in animal rights and veganism for as long as anyone in this group has. I'd be surprised if you've been involved as long as Roger, to be honest. But like the point is, like, if this is new to you and this seems overwhelming, I understand, but it really is needed for us to be strong. And if you're not at that place yet where you can be strong, it's okay, but take some time and really think about it and really prepare yourself and try to get that strong. It should be something that you aim for to be. So, you know, be direct and be truthful and be honest about these things. Don't hide them. Don't hide behind vegetarianism or reducing your meat free days and things like that. Respect people enough to give them the whole truth. I think it's no matter how difficult it is. And if you're not there yet, all right, so be it. If you're not ready to go in hard yet, but have that as your aim and make it something to aspire to, because it's so needed. We don't need more plant-based dieters telling people to just do what you can. Like, we don't need more of that. We've got enough of that. Right? There's far too much of that already. You know, you look at the YouTube influencers. We talked about YouTube influencers earlier. Unfortunately, although there are huge YouTube influencers who are doing like vegan food and vegan lifestyle blogging and stuff, which is great influence on a lot of people, 9 times out of 10 also saying like, you know, it's your journey, do what you can and shit like that. So we really need to balance out this, you know, balance this out basically.
David, if I may add on that, like
Go
it's
ahead,
not
man.
just that, because my biggest problem, well, it's not my biggest, but one of the things that I really don't like, it's like when people they're not, you know, 0.1% vegan, and they just go ahead because you know the vegan search terms they hit good, so they make vegan recipes, but the next day it's something, you know, with a dent lab or something, which is like it doesn't make sense to me. So you actually have to have you know, a strong moral compass when you're talking about that. You have to have a, you know, it's that you cannot go halfway. You cannot, you know, steal a little. You cannot kill a little. You cannot, I don't know, be a little mean. So you cannot do that. So you cannot be just a little vegan. So you cannot be a vegan some days, but you know, it's a different thing. And the end goal is, like I really want to go like to backtrack that because I have a question about on Roger. Like it was about the egg thing we were talking, and I think I missed it, or I just kind of. Do you want to go ahead, or should I go ahead and ask the question?
Well,
You know,
I'm, I'm finding it difficult to follow your train of thought here, to be honest. You have a question. I get that bit.
yes, yeah. It's about the Hannah about the what she was saying to the producers to ignore
Okay,
the
yeah.
activists. It was
Okay.
about that. It's a little further back. Should we go that, or just forget it? It's okay.
I mean, if you, I know you said it now. So if you want to ask
Yeah.
a question, it's something like let's be
Yes.
let's set,
I would.
wait, let's set the scene. 1 second. So we were talking about previously. We were talking about this Hannah, who was the vice president of communications for the Animal Agriculture Alliance, and she made a video telling people to ignore vegan activists. She said, retailers, ignore them. They're just trying to destroy your company. They're trying to destroy animal agriculture. Ignore them. They don't want what's best for the animals. That's what she said. You have a question about that?
Yeah, exactly. So if I
Okay.
remember correctly, Roger said that you, it was about. Oh man, my my mind just emptied. But it was about like, yeah. So like, it said that you cannot, you know, aim for a higher welfare standard. So what we could do about this, like, what would be the proposal? Let's say from the activists, like if there is one, like this is what I'm thinking because I would like to know or just have something to, you know, to think about that. So I'm sorry, we just moved on a lot further.
So you're talking about like the retailer. What would we give the retailer as a solution other than a higher welfare?
Because like. Yeah, because let's say the prime minister would say, okay, higher welfare standards. Let's say cage-free eggs. I mean, yeah. So what would be the
I think,
you know,
I think
best?
that's down to like I think that's what Roger was saying actually about like if we are approaching retailers with a strong ethical message that look at this, look what's happening to the animal, it's wrong, and we should stop doing it. The chances are they're not going to go vegan, are they? The retailer's not just going to go, we'll go vegan. As much as we try, we're not going to do it. So I kind of agree with Roger on this, in that they're probably going to take steps to make it more ethical, to try and please the activists, or more like try and please the public who are now really pissed off about it. And I think that for ourselves, I think what we would propose is that they convert their business to a plant-based business or whatever, depending on what they're selling. Right? If it's clothing, then it would be like just vegan clothing. If it's food and plant-based food, whatever. And we could provide them ways they can do that. We can provide them alternatives that they can consider. You know, and we can if you really want to go the extra mile, you could, if you know business well, you could cost analysis for them, stuff like that, risk analysis. You can go if they want to sit down with you and talk business. You could do all of that. If that's your thing. I mean, I personally wouldn't feel completely comfortable because I wouldn't say I'm like really that well versed on how this would work. But I'm sure we find. I'm sure there are organisations that are doing this, and I know Peter gets heavily involved in this kind of stuff. So whether you hate them or not, people hate them for whatever reason, but they do have the resources to do this.
Yeah,
but ultimately, I would agree with Roger in that I don't think we should necessarily advocate for them to go cage-free. I think they will go cage-free when the public gets so angry at them for what they've been contributing to, they'll do that anyway to try and please the people. And I think we should just focus on continuing to pressure, because the animal agriculture and exploitation is wrong. I think our message should remain that way.
It was about what the message should be, and I agree with that. Like, I just want to to make it clear for me. So thank you.
I mean, there's a big supply and demand element here, as we know.
Yeah.
And also, we're dealing within the capitalist mode of production, and so we can't get around that. I mean, a lot of the capitalist enterprises now are getting on board with the vegan thing and the plant-based thing and all that. I mean, it was interesting that I think Tim Barford from VegFest, he was saying that there was a memo that went around the restaurant business about maybe 2.5 years ago, and they were talking about vegan options. And they were saying, look, there's a lot of vegans now who are going out eating with their non-vegan friends. And if there's 4 of them and you don't have a vegan option, then you lose all 4 of them. And so there's like a business reason, just like a rational business reason. And that's why, actually, funny enough, you often don't get anymore a restaurant which just has 1 vegan option, which used to be very common. They tend to have a couple or 3 because, again, they're in this situation where they know that the vegan, as it were, is checking them out. And that is then going to take them and their 3 non-vegan friends, as it were. I mean, I know there's all this thing about whether you should be eating with non-vegans in the first place. But, but the actual restaurant business recognized that this kind of, their capitalism was being affected by not having a vegan option. Even if they've obviously got no ethical and moral commitment to any of this, but neither have McDonald's or KFC or anything like that. I mean, these are just shithead capitalists, right? And so, but the point is, they'll sell burgers or they'll sell carrots, depending on where the demand is. So there is a demand and, supply and demand element to it. I mean, that's not the entire picture, but that's part of it.
Definitely. And you said about the 1 vegan option. Like, I remember that was usually like jacket potato and beans, basically, in restaurants in the UK for a very long time, or chips. That was pretty much it, basically, you could have.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, glad that changed. God, that was awesome. Thanks everyone. For Ellie, do you have anything to add? I looked like you were gonna start talking.
Yeah, I waffle on. No, I was just going to say about the activist thing. It would be important to get people to not only become vegan but become activists, because the nature of people is they do want to be involved in something. They do want to feel a part of things. So if you really do try and involve people and make them feel welcome, and it's not just this random thing that they can do, like, you've got to really pin it to them, the importance of it, and get them involved, because as you say, we haven't got very much time. So we do need more people involving themselves, like, heavily, as much as possible. So I think, saying that not only go vegan, but become active, like actually speak up about it, may increase the time that it takes for them to be vegan, may come quicker. So yeah, I just agreed with that, essentially.
Awesome. All right. Well, I've got another news story I want to share with you. Actually, this one I was going to include it in my Friday video, but I ran out of time. It was I wanted to get your responses to this, really, your reactions to this. I'm going to share the screen 1 second. So I saw this, right, and I thought, wow, this could be something powerful, right? Could be something we could discuss. So the title for this article was, during the pandemic, we bought our first whole hog, like a whole pig for anyone who's not in the USA. Eating direct and local is harder than it sounds. It was a pain in the ass. So I read that, right? And I thought, all right, this is going to be maybe someone's emotional account of how they didn't realize how difficult it was going to be to kill the pig. I thought we might have some kind of, I don't know, pro-vegan message coming out of this. Like, how sometimes you can see these articles, like someone was very emotional and they didn't realize how hard it was going to be, and like I had to say goodbye and it was so emotional, it was horrible. And I thought, I'm going to be able to rip into this, I'm going to be able to like prove and show that it actually turned out to be, believe it or not, to this person's like, this is why people just go to the supermarket and buy whatever is there, regardless of how an animal lived or died. So yeah, I'm thinking it's going to be very like, wow, they must have had a really emotional time. Turns out, right, this dude literally bought the bloody pig, right, and he was complaining because he had to drive 4 hours to go to a slaughterhouse. So this article is not about emotional or emotions, about how difficult it was for him emotionally, or how it's literally this person bought a pig, took the pig to wherever he was keeping the pig, emailed the slaughterhouse, drove the pig to the slaughterhouse, and then was complaining about how long it took to email the slaughterhouse, how long it took to kill the pig, and also how long it took to cook the pig up for him, and that he had to also cut some of the himself. Like, I just couldn't believe what I was reading. You know, when you read that first title, you're expecting this to be something completely different. And honestly, this is somebody who's a farmer, right? So I wanted to share this and talk about this because it just really shows the level of, I don't even know what to call it, the fucking nonsense that people go through when it comes to animals. Like, you know, to the point where, like, for this person, this was nothing more than just I don't know, buying a computer and taking it to the computer to get fixed or something, right? That's what it feels like, you know. What are your reactions to this? Like, would you have gone down the same road I went down, thinking it was going to be something emotional, or did you already predict that this was going to be some nonsense?
I'll go first because then I need to pee and then I need to go. So I'm sorry. I'll try and
go ahead.
Channel my brain and pretend I don't need to pee. I don't need to pee. So I knew actually from it was a pain in the ass that it would be about him, and it would be about the equivalent of looking after a potato. I can just the way that's written, like that's disgusting and repulsive. Like they're just completely commodifying them as if they mean nothing. Like, oh, it's so hard for me, I had to like take away the rights of this animal. Like, oh god, I'll just pay someone else to do it from now on. Like, what is this nonsense? God almighty, it's disgusting. Especially
it's fucking sick, isn't it?
Yeah, like when you've got that, you hope that people would read that and be like, eh? Because that picture there, that they're really cute, they're really sweet, and just to know that it's just all a kind of, the process is very mechanic, and like they don't matter at all. It just shows the level of cognitive dissonance and selfishness that people are going through, where they just don't consider at all that it might have been a little bit difficult for them. Like the 4-hour journey to the slaughterhouse, I think it was worse for them, mate. That's disgusting. Consider me triggered. And for some reason, that's made me to pee even more. So, I'm gonna
go ahead. Don't worry.
Thank you very much for having me. And nice to meet you, Roger.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you very much for having me. So I'll see you later. All right.
All right. See you next time.
Bye.
All right. So yeah.
Should I make a couple of observations? Because
go ahead.
that reminded me of two things. There used to be this kind of free-range pig farm, and it was called Real Meat Company, and they eventually had all these kind of troubles of kind of management and everything. I mean, even down to the level of they initially started to name the pigs, and then they realized that made it harder for them to drive them to slaughter, regardless of how far it was, and so then they tried to name them with names like Hitler and Goring, and names that wouldn't create any sympathy, and that didn't work either. And so they went back to what all animal farmers tend to do, which is regard them as units of production, and just give them numbers instead of names, you know. And so, you know, once you're in that kind of business of having an instrumental view of other animals, then you're gonna, you know, focus on things like, oh, it took me a long time to get to the slaughterhouse, as though that's the real problem here, of course. And also the second part is there's a film called The Animals Film, which came out in 1982, and it's kind of my generation's Earthlings, if you like. And it was a very powerful film at the time, and still is, but it's not available online. I think you've still got to buy it, I think. But it's a very powerful thing, and there's one scene in it where there's this farmer outside of a veal unit, and is going, well, you know, we're getting on really well with this farming, and you know, we're doing all right. The only problem, we don't like the confinement. And he says, because like we have to be here 7 days a week, and they ended up talking about his confinement because he had to be there on a regular basis because all the prisoners inside, as it were, needed tending to. And so this is what tends to happen. Once you start to think about other animals in this instrumental way, then all the kind of problems of management and everything become an issue. All the moral things, apart from animal welfareism, just goes out the window.
Yeah. That's it. Thank you for sharing that. I was really interested in it. I didn't think this would be by any means the first time that anyone had anything about this. So like, I'm happy that you also have a story to share where it's, like the whole units of production thing is I think 100%. I can understand why they do it like this, and I can understand what leads them to this. But what I don't understand is how they can fight. They must have an inner voice, right? They must all have this inner voice that tells them at some point, at some level, at one moment, whether it be a second or for 30 seconds or even a minute, where they're thinking like, there must be something in the back of the brain that says that this is fucked up. There's got to be. I don't get how people fight it. I've never understood how people fight it. It must be horrible for them.
Yeah, well, interesting. I did a couple of podcasts with Harold Brown once, and he was a dairy farmer who became a vegan activist. And he was saying he runs an organization called Farm Kind, and it kind of helps people transform from being animal farmers into arable farmers, as it were, and helps them do all the paperwork and all the rest of it. And he was saying that there are a lot of people who really dislike being animal farmers because they do see what goes on. And he said he even knows some farmers who, when it's the day for everyone to go to the slaughterhouse, they'll kind of find, some fencing that they need to do at the far end of the farm, and they'll disappear on their quad bike for a few hours, and then they'll come back to like an empty, a set of empty sheds. Now, obviously, we can see that as moral cowardice, but in some ways, farming is kind of based on that, in the sense that farmers are used to the ones that will often get a truck, and then the truck will take them away. Or if they're a smaller operation, they will take the other animals to the slaughterhouse or the house of slaughter, but they'll drop them off, and then they'll just retreat then. So they won't actually see what goes on. And in fact, during things like the foot and mouth kind of crisis, you get farmers weeping and crying whilst their animals are being killed. And the reason for that is that they don't normally see that bit. And that's the bit of the farming that they don't like. But for reasons of tradition and family expectation, peer group pressure and everything, they kind of stay in it. My great grandfather started this farm and all that. They've got a lot of family pressure to keep going and stuff. But it does seem, and I think Michelle Lowe mentioned this about subsidies. It does seem if we can get our head around the subsidies situation, we might be able to get a situation where we can help farmers and we can put pressure on the political system to help farmers to transform into plant-based farming. And that seems to me, I'm not a big fan of political campaigning, but that's one that I would support, I think.
Definitely. And just before I go to you, Vasilia, sorry, man, I know we're getting on here rambling at each other, but you brought a few things up that reminded me of. I made a video about apex predators where I was just sarcastically saying all different examples of humans being apex predators, and I gave actually 3 or 4 examples of video footage, evidence of farmers breaking down in tears about their jobs, right? The job that apparently is, they're supposed to be so strong and tough, and the animals are just, it's just the way of the world, right? But yet the people who are doing it for the public are breaking down in tears because they've had to send an animal to slaughter, because one of the cows fell over on the ice and they had to have the cow euthanized rather than sending them to a slaughterhouse, and they're breaking down in tears at that. And one farmer crying because may have seen this on the BBC. He was crying because he was talking about having to separate the calves from the mothers. He starts crying. He's breaking down. He can't. He's like turn the camera off because he doesn't want them to film him breaking down about it. So it's the public doesn't see any of this. The farmers barely even see any of their animals being killed. We're just all trying to hide, and the people doing the killing, suffering from PTSD and depression and anxiety, and you know, the more likely to have issues with domestic violence, and it's just insane, isn't it? When you really start to pay attention, it's incredible what's going on, and how, you know,
yeah, but it's a system of use, though, isn't it? It's a system of use and tradition. I was at an Earthlings in Dublin, and there was two female dairy farmers, and they were saying that they kind of liked their job, except that they didn't like to separate the mothers from the calves, and said that they would call out for ages and ages, and it really kind of got to at least one of them. And I took the opportunity to ask whether they thought it was worse to separate the calves when they were newly born, or in this case, for some of the calves, they separated them about 3 months. So presumably they were going either for so-called beef or into the dairy herd, I suppose. And she said that she thought that separating them at 3 months was worse than at birth, because they'd really bonded by then. And so again, you know, you got another example of somebody who's seen the reality of it. Because I said, well, obviously there's an easy way for you not to suffer this thing about the lowing, and it's going to not do it. But then again, you know, then you've got kind of, well, how do I do that? You know, I mean, that's their business, you know, it's what they know. It's a little bit like saying, you know, trot along to any kind of person in any kind of business and saying, don't do that, do this, and you'll need a complete new set of skills, probably a complete new set of machinery, and it's going to put them in a situation where they're very uncertain about their future. Whereas in terms of carrying on with what they're doing, even though they don't like elements of it, at least they know what they're doing and they know they can make a profit and blah, blah, blah. So it's quite complicated. Even the ones who want to get out of it, they've got kind of blocks to it, social blocks, financial blocks, you know.
Definitely. So yes, before I go on, man, do you have something to say on here? Yeah,
I have like two things. The part with the subsidies, because I was at the end of that, it's huge. Like, I know for a fact that I don't know the numbers, but I know that let's say they not the public, come on, man.
Please. Okay,
as let's say as Greeks, as the whole public, we support that, with tax paying and stuff like that. So a huge portion of money goes to support that. Same goes for those who make oranges, and there is a frost, and the oranges they go ice cubes. So I understand that, but it's again supply and demand. And I would also have to add three things. Like I've spoken with a dairy farmer, and he said like there were specific animals that he would really bond to, and when they at some point they had to go to the slaughterhouse, and at those moments he would break to tears, and he would be like, if a person is missing. So we had that that outreach conversation. Also, there's a slaughterhouse owner, like her father and she said that if someone would tell me, like if someone were to buy this building, this business, and for the amount of money that it worth, so I would be out of that. I wouldn't be here. So, and he also said that I really, there are times that I think that, what am I doing here? Why is this my business? And after all this time, even now I do that. And the pinnacle, the best and worst comment I've ever heard of that is like, there was a slaughterhouse worker, and we were about to meet the head of the slaughterhouse. So he was leading us to them and say, why are you doing vigils? Why do you want to do vigils here? And we said, we love animals. We want to be to give them some love for the as a parting gift. If just say goodbye in a proper way. So he said, don't how would you? It's a little bit. It's a we love animals as well. It's not don't look that we're killing them, but we love, like, he specific words, like word by word. This is what he said, and then I don't know, like it makes sense.
right.
It makes sense.
Yeah. I think there's a lot. I mean, we're talking basically about a combination of cognitive dissonance and necessity. People doing this out of either a perceived or a real necessity, and it's perceived because it's not a necessity, but it's perceived by them because, as Roger said, they don't know a way out, and there are some organizations that are helping them get out, but I guess I don't know. I guess they are few and far between, and sometimes it's not so easy. I mean, I met farmers in my friend's parents are farmers in France, in rural France, and they live in the middle of nowhere, right? Literally in the middle of nowhere, and they're beef farmers. Or I don't want to say that, but that's what they would call themselves, all right? And they used to have plum trees, fruit trees, and they were getting subsidized by the government to grow plums. And they had said, like, this was something, okay, if they keep on subsidizing us, maybe we can stop the beef farming. They don't want to do this. They didn't want to do that anymore. In her own words, she said to me, I'm getting old. When I was younger, I was more strong and I could ignore the feelings and the emotions. But now I'm older, I'm going soft and I can't ignore it anymore. I feel horrible and sending them to be killed. I can't do it anymore. But the government pulled the subsidies from the plums. Actually, the government paid them to take the plum trees out, as in to completely chop them down. I don't know why. I don't understand that. And they subsidize them to continue making, breeding the cows. So they're in a position now where, like, if we stop doing this, we can't make money. We're in the middle of nowhere in France. We're in the middle of the countryside. There's not like a local hotel you could get a job at or something. There's literally nothing. And when she was telling me this, all I could do was just say, like, I said I can find you some people to talk to, and there's the language barriers at some level because it's not her who's in charge of it. It's actually her husband, and he speaks no English, and so I'm like trying to find someone who speaks French who could maybe figure this out in France. And it's like, the systems to get this moving, they're in place in some countries, but in others it's far more complicated, and in France it's one of those places. It's extremely complicated, but they want out. It's really sad, actually, for the animals. Really sad, but also sad because these people don't want to do this anymore. They don't know what to do, though. And what do we say to them? I don't know, Roger, if you've ever dealt with this over your long experience in working with animal rights, and I'm guessing you've spoken to farmers before as well. I mean, like, what would you have said in my position? Would you have anything different to add, or what do you think?
No, you kind of do what you did there, is kind of do the best you can, really, in the circumstance. I mean, as a general matter, of course, it shows that people are not just necessarily just evil, and that they actually were enjoy oppressing other animals or anything like that. I mean, a lot of them, like you say, want out, but they need help. They can't do it. They're in a difficult situation. And then you've got the added burden there of trying to help somebody in a different country as well, which obviously is a major complication. But I mean, perhaps the future for the movement would be to try to put into being some kind of facilitation of change, I suppose. And I tend to think that we tried to do that with VIP, my group, Vegan Information Project. We tried to get our head around the subsidies system because we're still in the EU and everything. But it's incredibly complicated. And that thing about being paid to chop the trees down, there was a scandal in Britain in the 80s because people were like being subsidized to grow up the hedgerows, and then they'd be subsidized to put them back in again. And, it would be a bit of a kind of corrupt kind of thing going on. So there's a lot of money washing around as far as I can gather. It's just that we would like it directed in a particular way, but how to bring that about, I'm not sure. I certainly don't have that expertise. It'd be good to find out if somebody really understands the subsidies system. I think it's a little bit like economics. I don't think anybody really understands it.
Yeah, or at least that we would massively benefit from having some individuals who can, let's say, I don't know, insert themselves into the political system as maybe without revealing that they are into animal rights until they are in a position where they can actually influence, maybe some kind of infiltration, but legal. I'm talking legal here, but I think, I don't know if anyone's ever really fully considered that, but I mean, that would be the way to go, or for us to try to reach out to people who are already involved in the legal system and the political systems of whichever country you're in, and try to get them on side, you know, or to make some, or to give, at least give information. I think definitely some, but I wouldn't know where to start for sure with that. I think there are some people out there who are kind of touching on this and focused on this. I think maybe I could bring some of these people on to a live stream sometime, and they could help educate us on it, and, you know, give us some of the insights. If anyone knows,
anybody's doing that, you know, I mean, there might be some people out there. I mean, like, I'm not so sure we need to get into the system. We need to understand it probably, and then you probably act as a kind of lobbyist, perhaps, from the outside. I'm not sure. You know, I'm not sure about getting involved because, you know, politics, it's all about compromise and all the rest of it. And so I think that once inside a mechanism like that, you know, your ideals get squashed down. You know, it's one thing to be opposition, and it's another thing to be in government, all that kind of stuff. But certainly just understanding it would be a major step forward, I think.
For sure, yeah, definitely. All right, so what I'll do then, I'll do through some pretty intense topics. I'm actually going to close up on a more positive one, something we can just like a feel-good one, actually. So I'm just going to load it up now. A good story from this week. It was in the 5-Minute Friday as well, if anyone saw that, but I'm going to cover it very briefly. And now, sorry for the time it's taken me to load it up. I'm just trying to pull the link up. But this is a good story about some dogs who were actually rescued from the dog meat industry and recently landed in the USA. They were rescued from South Korea. I think it's a pretty awesome story. So I'm just going to load it up and get some of the photos so you can see. Yeah, because I think it's important that we finish on something that's more positive. And obviously I'm going to guess these people who did this are not vegan, but we've got to take what we can when we can. Sometimes we've got to just look at the positives, right? All right. So yeah, we got these guys, 200 dogs rescued from South Korea, just landed in the USA. It says that they were rescued by the Humane Society International. 170 of them. They had golden retriever, poodle, Korean Jindos, mastiffs, Pomeranians, terriers, and a Labrador, and 26 other dogs from a meat market and a farm rescue operation. So like, it's pretty insane to imagine, right? For us, I mean, it's insane, but of course, like, you know, it's if you imagine these dogs were in the exact same position as you know, pigs and chickens are in European countries, and it's incredible that they got out of that. You know, 170 of them over to the USA now, landed in the USA, and then they're going to go and yeah, be adopted out, I suppose, and hopefully they'll go to good homes. And I guess all we can really hope for is that this kind of starts to happen in the numbers that's been here and more with pigs, chickens, cows, and all the animals in the animal agriculture industries, not just the ones that are deemed to be, you know, socially unacceptable to do this to. It should be socially unacceptable to do anything like this to all of it. So I guess we can only hope that that day comes sooner rather than later, but it's still possible that, you know, dogs got out.
Does it say who rescued them, David? Does it say who did that? Who actually did the rescuing? I mean,
the Humane Society, apparently. Humane Society International.
Yeah, usually what they do is they work with the local activists because, you know, in terms of Asia in general, and even places like China, which have got a bad reputation, and we get a lot of racist comments about places like China and Japan, but they've got remarkable animal advocates who do remarkable things that we don't even do in the West. You know, like stopping lorry loads of dogs going to slaughter, and they won't release them. You know, and then the police arrive, and then they do a negotiation and get them into sanctuaries. And one thing that might interest your viewers is I've got a chapter in a David Nybert collection. And another guy writing it's called Peter Lai, or Lee, L-I. And he was saying that most people in China have never tasted dog meat. And in fact, most people are opposed to it. And I think a large percentage of the small percentage who have tasted it didn't know that that's what it was at the time. They kind of just bought what they thought was meat, and it ended up being dog meat. And so, you know, this general idea that, you know, that there's a widespread kind of commitment to eating dogs in China is a false perception, bit of a myth, apparently.
Yeah, it gets blown up by the media every year as well, because the media, mainstream media doesn't give a shit about what's right. They give a shit about clicks and shares, right? So even if it is a minority, even if this is true, it's every year it's going to come up, and every year all the vegans and all the public are going to stand together and shout at China, regardless of what the actual reality of the situation is. Unfortunately, we're in the age of misinformation. This is what we're in now. This is 2020 and beyond. So that doesn't surprise me at all. But I'm glad I didn't know that. So I'm glad I've resisted falling into the trap of attacking China every year this comes around, and I tend to try to use it to post about all of the animals and catch people's attention by calling out the hypocrisy when they get angry about the dogs. That's kind of how I do it, and I think I would recommend definitely that vegans do that rather than joining the mob and attacking China. I'd always recommend that talk about the dog festival too, but make sure to link it to the fact that this is happening every single day, but it's just happening to other animals right where you're sat. I think it's always important that we bring it home.
Yeah, I mean, there's cultural difference everywhere. I mean, it's just a matter of culture, and obviously we are talking about cultural speciesism here, but it varies from nation to nation. For example, in Japan, foxes are seen as rather sacred, and look what we do to foxes. So they tend to kind of look at us in a very pejorative way because of that. So you got to be careful if you're going to kind of slate an entire kind of nation, because really they've just got a different version, and it comes from our early socialization, where we get taught eventually that there are different categories of other animals. Some are food, some are pets, some are to be worn, some are so-called vermin and all this kind of stuff. Some are free living beings or wildlife, that kind of thing. And of course, what the Chinese do from our eyes is they make categorical mistakes, because they're eating the pets, and that's wrong, because that's not what you do with pets. The way we use pets is by petting them. But it's all about animal use. I mean, it just so happens that they're getting it wrong from our cultural perspective, in the same way as we're getting it wrong from a Japanese perspective about foxes. It's just different kind of strands of cultural speciesism. That's all that's going on, really.
Absolutely. Vasilios, I see. You can't get a word in right now, right?
I like to listen. And this is really true. Like, it's because at some point I was not born vegan, and probably most of vegans were not born vegans. Maybe this is something that's going to change in the future, but like, I grew up, petting dogs and eating pigs. So how should I be, the one saying you're a bad person, or you're I don't know, you're crazy, you're this, you're that, when I used to do the same to a different animal? So it all comes to, like, there is no need for that. So why do we perpetuate the thing that there is absolutely no necessity? And I do not want to in deep arguments about what's necessary, what's not necessary. But I mean, even if that's the case, like, they have a festival for that, because it's the Yulin festival. We have Easter, with, like, especially in Greece, like millions, so like 2 to 3 millions lambs each year. So I mean, it's a different kind of festival. The outcome for the animal is the same, and you can only look the problem of the perspective of the victim, and the victim is either the dog or the cat or the lamb or the cow or the chicken. So I mean, it's just a different animal.
You're totally right, and I've had this discussion with people. Like, I try to call this hypocrisy out when people get upset about Eid. They get upset about the Eid festival, right? The mass slaughter, and they say, "Oh, these, you get these Islamophobes coming out of the woodwork. They, oh, the Muslims are disgusting. Their festival's disgusting. Blah blah blah." You're like, I'm sorry, you're Christian. So what do you do at Christmas every year? It may not be branded as animal sacrifice, but that's what it is, animal sacrifice. Like, just because you don't call it animal sacrifice doesn't change it. And in America, you have Thanksgiving, you sacrifice animals multiple times a year if you're American, and you call it, you don't call it sacrifice again. So again, yeah, it's the common thing that people like to point the others to say, look, they're the ones that are bad, and they very rarely look inside, look at themselves and say, wow, yeah, either I'm doing the same thing or I'm doing something very similar. And that's, I love calling shit out, because it really angers people to compare Eid to Christmas it really pisses people off because it really is close to home, and it's true. Like, it's true. I don't care what they say. And they don't just kill the animals; they eat them. Actually, they donate the bodies, the flesh to the poor. Actually, so if anything, if you're going to look at Eid and Christmas, I'd say Eid, they're both immoral, but Eid is actually more moral because they don't even eat the animals themselves; they give it to other people. And with Christmas, you're sacrificing an animal so you can stuff your faces, and you don't even need to do it. There's no necessity. There's an argument that those poor people may even need the food, whatever you want to call it. I'm not making an argument, but I'm saying they'd have more of an argument for that than people have for Christmas, right? So I do like to call this out, and I think it links in with the xenophobia with China as well. There's also Islamophobia with Eid. It's very common, very, very common. And then they do the same back though. I mean, when I was in India, I met many Indians who were also very xenophobic towards the West. They would say, oh, the way we do the animal, slaughter and the farm here, it's not like what you do in the West. You guys are disgusting. Like, so it works both ways. Don't get me wrong. Every community, every society is xenophobic or racist in one way or another to another community or society. It's not a uniquely Western trait, unfortunately. Well, I don't know if it's unfortunately or fortunately, but it's just the fact of it. It's not something that only the Westerners do. It's really common, yeah. But I guess we'll round up, yeah. So thank you both for joining, and Vegan Gaze, Ellie, who's left early to go for a pee and didn't come back, but that's all good. And thank you both for joining. It's been I've really enjoyed it, and I'll put links to both of your YouTube. Roger, do you have a YouTube channel as well? I've seen you on Facebook, but I don't know if you
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
okay, cool.
I got a YouTube one. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I'll link that as well, Ben, and obviously Vasilios, I'll link yours, the Vegan Skunk, or Asvos in Greek. I'll link that too. And for those of you that haven't seen yet, I just want to also announce 2 videos coming in the coming week. One Wednesday, which is a very, very dry, sarcastic parody that I made with my partner Annie. Annie is playing the role of a vegan girl, and I'm playing the role of a super alpha, masculine, anti-vegan meat eater. And it's just, I think you'll like it. I think it encapsulates not only the vegan arguments, but it also encapsulates the kind of toxic masculinity argument as well. Like, it kind of deals with both of them. So I'm sure it'll go down well. And then also on Sunday, we have a really powerful live stream. I'm sure it's going to be powerful with the founders of Anonymous for the Voiceless, where they're going to be responding to and answering questions about every single accusation and rumor that has ever been made about them, the ones that I find anyway. So if you're interested in that, if anyone's watching and you want to know some answers to some questions, join us for the live stream. We're going to be answering questions live, and it's no holds barred. Like, there's going to be, obviously, we're going to keep it civil, we're going to keep it reasonable, but we will be open to answering almost any question. And I'm going to make sure to be tough. We're going to get to the bottom of some of these rumors. So I hope we can all make that as well. Again, thanks so much for joining. And you're always welcome to the live stream every Sunday. So if you ever want to join again, just drop me a message and you can jump on. Okay. Well, thanks very much. And thank you for putting up with my boring old fart rambling. So
No, it was really essential. Thank you.
It was really. Yeah, I really enjoyed
you
here, man.
Take care, everyone.
Really good.
Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye.
Have a good one.